Hello and welcome to another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on October the 25th, 2016. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the anti-politician himself.
Caffeine Rage. What, am I politically incorrect?
Yes, you are. You're my new Vermin Supreme.
You just love me because I introduced you to him.
Yes, I do, and yes, you did. On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we played. We've got our bi-weekly game club, which this week is Alan Wake. Bethesda announced that withholding review copies is now their official company policy. We're going to discuss the Nintendo Switch reveal. The video game voice actors have gone on strike, and we'll have our weekly community corner and a lack of Steam deals this week. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics, and I'm getting better and better at spitting out that mouthful of crap all the time. How are you today, Rage?
Well, it is the entire podcast. Or wait, are you talking about just this specific mouthful of crap?
Just this specific mouthful of crap. I've had we've had to do fewer openings in the last few episodes than ever before because I'm pretty good at just spouting all of it off without screwing up. Or if I do screw up, I just keep going and hope that no one notices.
Which is pretty much our policy overall, isn't it?
Yeah, just keep going and hope no one notices.
Hey, that's how it's worked for my YouTube channel.
Yep. But wait, on your YouTube channel, wouldn't you want people to notice?
Yeah, for my crappy content, which is actually all of it now that I really think about it.
Oh, you sell yourself short. You have some fine content.
I'm of average height.
There you go. That's something to be proud of these days. So, where do you want to... Do we have anything to, talk about before we just get into it, or do we want to get into it? Because we've got a lot of material to cover.
We got
and a lot of audio content from our listeners, which is great, but maybe they're doing it just so that they don't have to hear us bullshit for 10 minutes before we get started.
Hey, it worked for Kerbal-Cast until Biff killed it.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess if that's the mentality we're going to have for this episode, then Rage, tell me about games. All your games.
Yeah, I've got 3 this week. Starting off with what I played for the Sunday Sampler, the 3rd edition of Crazy Machines. Crazy Machines 3, a Rube Goldberg puzzle game. And I've actually really enjoyed this game. I'll just pause for everyone to recover from all the shock.
All right, everyone, get back in your chairs. If you were driving, I hope you didn't crash.
Well, if we see a sudden drop-off on the votes for the Game Club poll, I think we've figured out what happened.
Yeah, you killed a few people.
But I will have to admit that I am a fan of the series already, so I was pretty much expecting to like this game going in. There are some problems with it, of course. I mean, I'm me. I'm going to find the problems. And probably nitpick a little bit, but that's probably beside the point.
Right.
The big thing for Crazy Machines 3 over the second iteration of this series is that they really pushed the graphical fidelity of it. I mean, if you compare this to Crazy Machines 2, it looks a lot better, but it also brings up the system requirements big time. I'll wait for you to go look at Crazy Machines 2, which I didn't provide a link to.
Yeah, I already looked it up.
Yeah, it's quite the different looking game, huh?
Yeah, Crazy Machines 3 definitely looks really good, and Crazy Machines 2 doesn't look
It's not a
awful,
slouch, but at the same time, it feels like it's paying more homage to the original, The Incredible Machine. Well, very, very basic graphics, but it's more about the puzzle design, which Crazy Machines 3 has some interesting puzzle design. There was a few puzzles that I did in my offline or off-recording testing that I was really impressed with, especially this one gravity puzzle where you had to switch the gravity around several ways to make balls go down particular tracks. It was really quite fun. But my biggest problem with the game is that there's a complete lack of a hint system, which sounds a bit nitpicky, but the thing with Rube Goldberg machines is that, well, first of all, if you don't know what a Rube Goldberg machine is essentially a machine designed to make a simple task as complex as possible. As a matter of fact, there's real-life competitions building Rube Goldberg machines, and the real-life competitions say that this whatever action that you have to perform for the competition has to take no less than 20 steps to complete. And it could be something as simple as turning on a light switch. Very simple, but as complex as possible. And it's all traces back to this cartoonist named Rube Goldberg, surprisingly enough, just drawing cartoons of weird machines. And because Rube Goldberg machines use some interesting logic, not having a something to kind of nudge you in the right direction if you're stuck can be a huge detriment. And the other thing that I really had a problem with was that while the graphics are very pretty, at times it's a little difficult to tell what's in the background layer and what is in the foreground, what is collidable. Matter of fact, I had one puzzle that I had in my testing session that a valid solution wasn't working because an arrow was in the foreground layer instead of the background layer. So I couldn't place a particular gear in one spot. So it negated a secondary solution to the puzzle, which is something that typically happens with Rube Goldberg machine games, is that you'll have the official, how the developers intend you to solve it. And then you start getting into the realm of, well, what can I make the physics engine do?
Right.
And you start, getting solutions where you're not using all the parts, or, you're skipping steps, which is part of the fun, really, of these Rube Goldberg machine games. And at least going up to the medium puzzles, which is where I stopped after about an hour and a half, 2 hours. And I had just unlocked them and did a couple of them. Which, how you unlock them is, well, first of all, you have to complete the basics, which is essentially the tutorial. Then you have the easy puzzles split up in different sections based on really what they're entailing. One based on more gravity, for example, one based on just different weights and that sort of thing. Just to give you an idea, I'm not sure if there was weights or if it was balls, or I can't remember the exact categories, but you have to solve 3 of those in each category, which there's usually 6 to 8 in each category. So you don't have to solve every single puzzle, thankfully, which, kind of gets around the hint system, but at the same time, it's not something that I would have really preferred. I would have preferred, having to do more of the puzzles, but maybe have a hint to just kind of nudge you in the right direction if you're stuck on a particular leap of logic. But even going up to the medium puzzles, there's been no alternate solutions that I can find. Granted, that doesn't mean that they're not there. I mean, we'll say that I'm pretty average with these games. I could solve them somewhat easily, at least up to the very hardest difficulties where things start to get a little crazy. But it's something that may or may not be there. I'm not entirely certain.
Right.
And also, based on the second Incredible Machine game, I will say that I'm expecting either a lot of DLC or a lot of expansion packs, because the second Incredible Machine game had a lot that added a lot of different game mechanics to it, especially the fluid dynamics puzzles in the Crazy Machines 2, which I'm expecting, and they are talking about post-release content for this game in the form of patches, which are going to be free, I might add. So that's something there. But overall, I really enjoyed it. The beginning is quite easy, but then again, it is also tutorial, then it's labeled easy puzzles. But even getting up to the medium puzzles, you're starting to get to the point where, you're having to sit down and really think about it. And it's one of those things that it's definitely not going to be for everyone, but it is an interesting game.
Well, I'm very glad to hear you say that you like the game. I've actually considered it's actually a game that I I didn't put it on my wish list, but I didn't put it on the not interested list. It's been one of those games I'm like, well, if I see it on sale cheap enough, I'll buy it. But you actually, well, I don't know if this means anything or not, but you actually convinced me to add it to my wish list.
Wow. It's going to be lost in all the wish lists now. I will say that it's probably a game that King would love, especially the early puzzles where they're a lot easier.
Yeah. He and I have definitely been playing a lot of games, and I didn't put any of those games on my list because they're all games that I've played before and talked about a ton, but he is definitely getting more and more into gaming. Like, he's getting old enough to understand, okay, if I wait and, a thing will happen, and I will like the thing that happens.
Yeah, I think you'll like The Incredible Machine. Well, if you go back to the early, actually abandonware now, Incredible Machine, or even the Crazy Machine, which is the modern equivalent of it. I think you would really enjoy those games, assuming that they don't get too difficult for him. Because, like I said, they do require some leaps of logic, but there's also games in this genre that are a lot easier. That's targeted towards kids. The Crazy Machine. The very beginning of the campaign for Crazy Machines 3 definitely fits in that genre. But, yeah, when it quickly gets out of it.
Yeah.
But I think you would enjoy it, though. And plus, this also has workshop content, which it really depends on how the community really gets behind it to see how it takes off. But there was a fair amount of content, even just post-launch. Which right now, there's 163 items on the store, or on the workshop, I should say. Which is a fair amount considering, this is a very niche game. I'm not going to pretend this isn't.
Yeah.
And this also is, puzzles. There's machines that are literally just press play and watch it, do its thing. And then there's also parts, which are from the editor, which I didn't really mention, that this game has a pretty in-depth editor, which has something like just short of an hour's worth of tutorials on the Steam store page to show you all the stuff that I could do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely got potential to have some legs on it. It's just going to have to wait and see how it really turns out.
Sweet. Well, what's your second game?
Well, my second game was really after the whole thing with Nintendo. I decided, maybe I should, get into a Mario game at some point. And I set up the Dolphin emulator not too long ago, so I decided to get Mario Sunshine and start playing that a bit. And I never really played a 3D Mario game. For me, Mario has always been a block of, just a block of pixels that vaguely resemble an overweight Italian plumber.
Okay.
And the 3D Mario games, maybe it's just my own ignorance that, I never realized how far they moved into the puzzle platformer element. Especially with Mario Sunshine. There's some areas that I was really shocked at just how puzzle platformy they got. Just different mazes and having to figure out certain things. And I was playing this a bit with Kyle, and he was telling me how to do certain things, particularly just because I never really played Mario N64. I know I'm probably the only person on the fucking planet that had a Nintendo 64 and didn't have the Mario game for it.
Yeah. Probably, because my N64 came with Super Mario 64.
Yeah, mine didn't. I think I had a different bundle. I think mine had a Star Wars game with it. So
Rogue Squadron?
It wasn't Rogue Squadron. It was... now I'm completely blanking on it.
The Pod Racer game?
No, I got the Pod Racer game on clearance years later for like $1 from Walmart.
Was it
it was the third-person shooter.
Shadows of the Empire?
Yeah, it either came with it or I got it very early. Or maybe my N64 didn't come with the game at all. I can't recall which it was. But I know I never had a Nintendo 64 with Mario. So, this is really my first foray into a 3D Mario game. And like I said, it's one of those things that is a bit strange getting into, particularly after it really expects you to have experience with Mario 64 because it doesn't really explain anything. And the little tutorial pop-ups from Flood, which you could really tell that how they were limited on space because, his entire thing is Mario. And I'm just expecting him to say, Mario, fuck you. Especially, you know, after I do something, it's like, okay, how the hell do I get through this? And then it gives me the tutorial, you know, well, you just got to do this. It's like, oh, well, fuck you too.
I really liked Super Mario Sunshine. A lot of people that
I'm
a lot of
enjoying
people don't like it, but
it's something that I've been playing on and off. You know, play a little bit of it, particularly after getting through a session with Alan Wake. Just, you know, get something bright and cheerful.
Yeah.
And then go back into Alan Wake.
Yeah, I have a reactionary game to Alan Wake on my list too, but I'll get to that.
So, it's been interesting just seeing how Mario transitioned into 3D. Granted, I've realized it's kind of weird. I upgraded my video card, and now I'm playing, a 13, 14-year-old Mario game with it?
Yeah.
But it's running beautifully on the Dolphin emulator. The only time that I really have any frame drops with it is actually bringing up the map. Pressing Z and bringing up the God. And just because of the way they did the transition, it has a slight frame drop, you know, just for like a half second.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter. I'm bringing up the fucking map. The entire time I'm running a solid, I believe I'm running 30 FPS mode on this, which I probably could do 60. I just didn't want to mess with the FPS at all, just because, you know, some games kind of tie their physics to their frame rate, particularly games that are console exclusive.
Yeah.
Which
especially older titles.
That's
something
I didn't
that
want
was
to mess
used.
with it.
Yeah, tying physics and other things to the frame rate. I mean, it goes all the way back to at least that I know of for sure, back to the NES days. There were some mechanics in the original Super Mario that were tied to the frame rate. Like the Hammer Bros, them throwing hammers is tied directly to the frame rate.
Yeah, which a lot of speedrunners really exploit some of this stuff. It's really quite amazing whenever you hear someone sit down and explain it.
Yeah.
Talking about how they have to time individual frames.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's a whole other discussion that we may need to get into at some point.
Sure.
Just
not today,
speedrunning in general. Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah. Only thing I'm really doing differently on the Dolphin emulator compared to the original Mario Sunshine is I'm running it at double resolution. Which is a pretty sizable window on my 1080p monitor. It's, I believe it's designed to run at for 720p recording. I believe it's a 1200 resolution by something else, and I'm blanking on the other. But
okay.
It's large enough that I could see it easily. And I'm also running some anti-aliasing on it, so I don't get as many chaggies on it. Granted, it's a game that's held up pretty well graphically. But then again, it's also very cartoony, so, there you go.
Yeah. Is it 1200 by 800?
I think so.
I just pulled up the big list of resolutions on Wikipedia.
Well, I could always fire up Dolphin and tell you exactly what it is, just because, it's not like I'm going to be playing a game with it. It's not like I'm going to be sitting here and playing Mario Sunshine the entire time.
The entire time? Nah, it's not that important.
Let's see. Enhancements, 1280 by 1056.
Oh, okay.
It's running at 2 times native resolution. That's the thing.
So 1280 by 1056 is double resolution?
Yeah, the native resolution is 640 by 528.
Okay. Oh, that just seems so weird. That's not even in the list of standard resolutions on Wikipedia.
Oh, it's
probably
designed
a proprietary
for televisions.
thing. Yeah, designed for televisions back when standard definition was standard.
Which there was a really interesting video I saw not too long ago about why broadcast television is 29 point blah, 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 blah FPS. And it really goes down to, how they tried to make color television work with the current system.
Yeah.
Very fascinating stuff. But completely off topic.
Yeah, very, very off topic. So, anything else to say about Mario Sunshine?
Like I said, it surprised me, and it's something I'm going to be playing on and off. It's a very easy game just to pick up and play for 15, 20 minutes. Get frustrated with a particular segment because I seem to that pudgy little motherfucker seems to always do that weird sideways jump when I don't intend him to.
Yahoo!
Yahoo! Ah! Yeah, shame that he doesn't have Luigi there. I far prefer Luigi. I'm not sure why.
Yeah. I'm not sure why either.
What? You prefer Luigi as well, or you're wondering why I prefer Luigi?
I'm wondering why you prefer Luigi.
Maybe it's just the fact that he's the second brother, and no one ever really pays attention to him. Granted, probably during Mario Sunshine, he's back in the castle banging Princess Daisy or something the entire time.
Yeah.
That's
a good reason to want to be him.
And Maya had the entire time for Mario Sunshine. Princess Peach has been kidnapped twice already.
Yeah, that's the running theme for Mario, though. Princess Peach gets kidnapped all the time.
Princess Peach gets kidnapped, banged by Bowser. She has some kids. Doesn't remember him because she's a dumb blonde.
Yeah.
Yeah, Princess Peach strikes me as a ruler that would not be very effective.
Probably not.
Now the question is, more or less effective than Trump?
More effective.
Okay, well, should we stick on politics, or should we move on to the third game?
Nope. Let's hear what your gripe is about the Vanishing of Ethan Carter.
The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. I finished recording that this week, and my big gripe with it is that, okay, I get through the entire game. I get to the ending, and it says, yeah, pretty much, I'm not going to give you the ending because remember all that side content that looked like optional content? Guess what? It's not fucking optional content. Go back and do it, you bitch.
Oh, poor Rage.
And I went back and tried to do one of the things that's literally me wandering around in the woods for 15 minutes. It's like, fuck it. I'm not enjoying this. I wanted a interesting story. I was starting to get an interesting story. Granted, by the time I got to the ending, I still had really not much of a clue of what the fuck was going on. And now you're telling me, well, here, pad out the content a little bit. Let's go back and do all that optional content that you missed. No, fuck you.
So did you quit the game, or are you just angry at it?
I quit the game for now. If people want me to go do it, I will. It's just, I think I needed a break from it because, I got through all the stuff and then it blue balled me on the ending. It's like, really? I mean, I'm pretty sure I know how this ends already. I mean, you gave me enough stuff, that this is not going to be a happy ending.
Nope, it's not a very happy ending.
So it's, I just got very, very frustrated with it.
Yeah, it's a pretty sad ending.
Oh, I'm sure it's a sad ending, and the hint that you didn't make it in time. Gee, I wonder what happens to Ethan then. I can't imagine that he's just sitting there waiting for me.
Yeah, it's very sad.
So yeah, it's just. I think I just need to put it down and maybe come back to it later. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that if you make something look like optional content and then hit me at the end with, oh, you didn't do the optional content. So it's not even, getting the difference between getting an ending and getting the good ending, which I'm sure there's not a good ending to Ethan Carter. Well, good as in happy, I might add. But, say, well, no, we're not really going to give you an ending at all. That's what pissed me off.
Right.
So, yeah, that's pretty much Ethan Carter and my rant about it. And I'm going to be picking something probably a little bit more action-oriented this time around because, wandering around the woods for, about 4 or 5 hours and really not having a clue of what the fuck is going on. I think I've had enough of that for now.
Poor Rage. I love you.
I usually like to hear the angry pants come on.
Yeah, your angry pants are going to be on a few times this episode. So.
Oh yeah.
So just take your pants off for a little bit. You can put them back on later.
For that one again.
Let's go talk about my first game, which is a little mobile app
I'm surprised you're not getting into the one that we played together.
Well, I mean, I was just going to go in order, but I can start with that one if you prefer.
Well, it's a nice transition, which I could see why you're not doing it now.
Nope, you called it out. Let's do it. So, the first game I'm going to talk about this week is Portal 2. Now, you surprised everyone on the known world by stating that you'd never played Super Mario 64. I'm going to surprise everyone in the known world by stating that I never played Portal 2.
You didn't even own Portal 2.
No, I did not. Well, I didn't own it on Steam. I had owned it at one point on Xbox, but I never played it, and I just sold it. I had a physical copy back in my college days, and I just sold it.
Physical games? What's that?
Yeah. So yeah, we played Portal 2, and I haven't played the single player yet. I plan on tackling that at some point, but you and I are playing the multiplayer as part of our new collab series for our channel.
Yeah, which will obviously not last that long just because of how we're cutting it up, unless we start to really get into workshop content.
No, well, I didn't look ahead, because there's obviously some kind of story going on there, not just, goofy testing. There's definitely a story. But I didn't, look ahead in terms of spoiling the story, the co-op story, but I did look to see how long, and they're getting longer, so we might split up the last couple into multiple episodes.
Yeah, which if it comes down to it, we could always just split it up in post. Yeah,
we absolutely could do that. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm having a blast. The puzzle mechanics are that. This is what makes Portal so good, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, but Portal understands how to make good, innovative puzzles, because even the simple puzzles are great. They feel nice and easy and accomplished to beat them, and the more difficult puzzles are certainly challenging, but we feel very accomplished when we beat them and whenever we work together and sort them out.
Portal has what I call the aha moment that other games of this genre, the first-person puzzle games that try to be Portal, I'm looking at you, Quantum Conundrum, just don't have, that moment of, I got it.
Yeah.
But the problem with the other games is, a lot of times it's, I get it now, try to make the game do that, because sometimes it's a little bit more convoluted. Portal is, on the surface, a very, very simple game. Yeah. Usually there's 2 elements at most. Your portals and maybe something that's puzzle specific. The gels, crushers, just something that's just in that one particular puzzle.
Yeah.
It's just working it all together, which I will say that Portal 2 does limit its possible solutions a lot more than the original Portal, just because there's a lot less portable surfaces, particularly in the single-player campaign.
Yeah.
And also, it's not just that, it's also the writing for Portal. It's always just spot on the entire time.
Yeah. Portal 2's writing, the original Portal had good writing too, and Portal 2's writing is even better than that for just the multiplayer. I can't wait to experience the single-player campaign and the multiplayer for that.
Yeah, I'm expecting a series on this.
I will do something like that when I get to it. It's on the list of projects to do for sure. So, I'll get to it eventually.
And that's something else that, it's one of those perfect storms of, great puzzle mechanics, just great voice work, just in general. Even more so in the single-player campaign, which you'll find out whenever you play that eventually. And also the comedic writing. It's just spot on all the time. And when they have their groaners, they intend for them to be groaners. They're not trying to be funny and just miss the target.
Right. But I think groaners are funny a lot of times. So I'll just be extra amused, I guess.
Yeah, and that's why you have me around.
Yeah. Groan a lot at you. Okay, well...
Which that sounds a lot sexier than what you really do.
Wink. So the next game that I played this week, which was the one that I tried to start with, is Pirate Power. This is a little mobile game that has absolutely just taken over my week. I have played this game for about 22 hours this week.
Also, now we need the intervention for this. You change what you need your intervention for more often than what we would keep up with, at least.
This game it's a free-to-play game. I don't know actually if it's on Android devices. I haven't even checked that. Let me check that very quickly.
You chatter away, I'll look.
Okay, you look. So Pirate Power is a free-to-play mobile game where you're a pirate in command of a pirate ship.
Looks like it is on Android.
Okay. And you would think another one of these free-to-play clicker games where that you have energy and you build a little pirate island and blah, 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 blah. But no, this game is actually a good game first, and then it just happens to be on mobile. This would be a good game on whatever platform you played it on, as long as they tweaked their monetization strategy. So first of all, since I mentioned it, the monetization for this game is incredible. You can buy... there's a few things you can buy. You can buy the game's premium currency, which is floozies. I don't know if that's some reference to some pirate thing that I don't know about, but their premium currency is called floozies. You can buy the floozies, which allow you to purchase things like in-game bonus resources, bonus energy, that sort of thing. Special equipment, ship parts. Well, you can buy chests that give you a chance to give you special equipment and ship parts. And you think, well, I've heard all that before. But this game doesn't allow you to directly buy power for the multiplayer aspect of the game, because it does the whole power ranking system thing, kind of like Clash Royale does. So you very quickly leave behind players who are weaker than you to fight players who are on your equipment level. So
get on my level?
Yeah. So it keeps the multiplayer balanced. And once you actually start playing multiplayer, like if you never play it before, you'll fight some unranked people with really crappy stuff. But after 3 or 4 matches, it's like, okay, you are beating these people like crazy. Let me just bump you up to whatever tier, even though you're not officially in that tier yet. So it makes getting to the proper tier even quicker than like Clash Royale does, which keeps the frustration down from fighting things that are way above your level at a minimum. So that, excellent. Can't buy direct power to fight other people. And I'm fine with it allowing you to buy power for the single-player campaign, because normally where you run into trouble here is it's like, okay, so I bought power, I'm strong, I'm breezing through the missions and the challenges, but I run out of energy. But the game, it does limit the amount of energy that you can have at one time, which means that you can only do certain tasks a certain amount of times per day because you have to let the energy build up. But if you want to participate in any single-player mission or challenge or whatever, they all only require 1 energy. So you can get unlimited free energy by watching ads, which, yes, that also can be frustrating. But it means that, hey, if you want to keep playing the game, then just watch a 10-second ad, let this thing sit on your screen for 5 seconds, and then tap the X button, and you can go play. So, I mean...
It's not terrible.
No, it's not terrible at all. It's great. You can only do things like raiding by spending multiple energy points at a time. So you have to wait for your energy to build up to do that. But, I mean, you can basically just spend all of your accumulated energy raiding, which very quickly gives you money and experience to level up your ship parts and your ship crew, which I will get to in a moment. And then you can do that, and then you can just watch a quick 10, 15-second ad, and then go play a mission, and just do that over and over again. You also can buy energy if you buy the premium currency. It lets you refill your energy, and it's actually another thing that it does that feels nice is if you buy premium currency and refill your energy, it doesn't cost you increasingly higher amounts of premium currency to get more energy. It's always, I think it's 10 of the floozies, the premium currency, every time.
Sorry, that's just is an amazing name for a currency.
Yeah, I know. I think it's 10 floozies to refill your energy bar, and it's always 10 floozies. It never goes up no matter how many times you do it, which is nice because that's another thing that mobile games will do. Is it's like, oh, you want to refill your energy bar? Sure, it's 1 of our premium currency. Oh, you want to do it again? It's 10. Oh, now it's 100.
That's a lot of floozies.
It's 100 floozies, a lot of floozies. So that's nice. The next aspect of this game is it's got a really well-developed crafting and crew system. So you have different crew members that you can get, and all of them are unique and have unique abilities and attacks, and can each be leveled up separately and placed on your ship. You could have multiple pirate ships to form a pirate ship fleet, which for the story missions, there's only a couple that allow you to use multiple ships, but there's another game mode called Crusade, which allows you to bring your entire fleet along every time, which is nice. You can do one crusade per day, which is basically just a string of battles, and either you go until you win all the battles and get a huge reward, or you just go
liberate the Holy Land.
And liberate the Holy Land, or you just go until you die, which you still get lots of rewards unless you get killed really early, but you don't get the bonus reward for beating the crusade. And the crusades are worth a ton of money, an absolute shit ton of money. So there's that. But anyways, it's got a very fully developed crew system, lots and lots of unique crew with different abilities, special abilities, and normal attacks. There are many, many ship parts that are broken down into 4 classes of ships, or different faction ships, I guess. They each have their own unique bonuses and weaknesses and things like that. They all have unique visual designs. The art style is very cutesy, and I'm a sucker for cute things. The battle system itself...
Don't comment.
The battle system itself is an actual active battle system, which you can affect. You can make strategic decisions based on what parts of the enemy ships you want to shoot at. You can choose when to use your crew's abilities or special ship part abilities, depending on how your ship is built, to turn the tide of battle for your favor, or you can screw it up and lose, and not because the game is cheap, but because you screwed up. It's very fair, with very accurate representations of how difficult missions are going to be. And it's actually got a real, honest-to-God story campaign for a mobile game. It is a little bit cliched, I'll be honest, but it is a really good story that has a nice representation of different ethnicities and does not feel sexist or racist in any way. It is actually more representative of females and different racial ethnicities than most AAA games are. I was amazed. Like, everything about this game is just wonderful. And I have played it a crap ton this week. If I'm sitting at the clinic, I'm not seeing any clients, I've been playing this game this week. If I'm sitting at home, watching TV or whatever, I'm playing this game. If I'm laying in bed, wishing that I could turn back time and sleep some more, I'm playing this game. I'm just constantly playing this game. It's wonderful. Everyone should go try it.
Yeah, we're going to be scheduling that intervention for this weekend.
Everyone should go try it. It's amazing. Okay, the third and final game on my list is my kind of reaction to Alan Wake and the fact that I've been playing just a crap ton of things like Spin Tires and Train Fever and stuff over the last couple of weeks. Borderlands 2.
Yeah, which at least I could talk about.
Yeah. I've played Borderlands 2 previously on Xbox several years ago. I think I completed it in 2012 or 2013. I've had it on Steam for a while, and I've played it a bit on Steam. But it's a game that I've always wanted to go back and play again on my PC because, obviously, 1, better frame rate, 2, better graphics, 3, better controls with mouse and keyboard. So I've always wanted to go back and play it. Every time I load it up, I'm like, I don't think I want to play this right now. But after how serious Alan Wake is and how dark it is...
I wonder if it's a good sign or not that we both had reactionary games to Alan Wake.
I mean, Alan Wake is... which we will get into later. But I mean, Alan Wake is a very visceral, very affecting game without getting into the whole thing. And
unless you're Katie.
Yeah. But, yeah, everyone will get to hear that later, too. But it just made me want to go play something that was dumb and lighthearted and bright. And I was like, you know what? Borderlands 2 can be that game. So I played Borderlands 2 for a few hours this week. I don't know if I'll actually wind up beating it, but I just got into Sanctuary. So that's where I'm at.
Oh, so you're still in the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, I'm really early in the game. I mean, I've only played it for 3 hours, maybe.
I will say I like the beginning of the game far more than I like the late game, just because of how bullet spongy everything gets.
Yeah, it becomes very tedious.
And their idea of ramping up the difficulty instead of throwing more enemies at you is just, make it so that enemies take far less damage and will basically one-shot you.
Yeah, I didn't realize how stupid the AI was in that game until I went back and played it. It's got really
particularly
dumb AI.
If you use a sniper rifle, you see just how dumb the AI is.
Yeah, and I've been using a sniper rifle to exploit that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's still fun, though.
What class are you playing?
The soldier.
Ah.
I feel like they're the easiest to solo.
Yeah, the problem with the soldier, you've played through the game, or pretty much through the game, right?
I've played through the entire game before, yeah.
Okay. The soldier's ability, particularly on boss battles, it just becomes completely useless, which is very annoying.
I never felt like that way when I played before, because I've soloed through with the soldier once, and I soloed through as the...
Well, I should say especially, if you go through a second time. It just starts to get to the point where your turret just pretty much gets insta-killed. Assuming that even works, because I had a few boss battles that, throw the turret and, the boss just, kills it before it even has a chance to really fire.
Yeah.
Because how the AI works is that it'll focus on the turret first, and usually, once I started to get to harder difficulties, this was also playing co-op, I might add. I was starting to use it to buy myself a little bit of time to let shields recharge and everything. But it was starting to get to the point where they were just killing the turret so fast that it wasn't even worth throwing it out.
Right.
Which was a real shame because the turret is. Does some interesting things if you spec it right, but
you can do a lot with it.
It just started to get very frustrating.
Yeah, I'm going down the left tree primarily, which is the one that gives the turret the second gun and the rocket launcher attachment.
Yeah,
because I'm really just banking on the turret. The first time I played solo through, I went down the right tree, which lets you place 2 turrets.
Yeah, but I didn't go through that tree just because I was starting to struggle with just the single turret.
Right. I've never played the soldier though in multiplayer. When I played multiplayer with my friends back in the day, I was either the Gunzerker or is it Siren? I can't remember.
Yes, Maya.
Yeah, well, whatever that class is,
Yeah, that's Siren.
Yeah, okay, Siren, yeah. I played one of those too, so I don't know how well he plays action, the soldier.
I thought you meant the Siren, because the Sirens are always female.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was just saying I've never played the soldier in multiplayer, so I don't know how well they fare.
Yeah, maybe it's just the fact that I was playing multiplayer.
Maybe, because the game for multiplayer basically adds more enemies and makes them more bullet spongy.
Yeah, which that's not saying that they're not bullet spongy already.
No, that's true. It just makes them worse.
Yeah, which was my big concern with Shadow Warrior 2, because it's pretty much an even wackier version of Borderlands 2, if that's even possible, with more dick jokes.
Yeah. Very easy.
It looks like it's not as bad bullet spongy as Borderlands 2. Granted, it still has its bullet sponge problems.
Yeah. I don't mind bullet sponginess as long as the combat is interesting.
If every enemy is bullet spongy, though, that's when it starts to get annoying.
I could definitely see that, but it doesn't annoy me. Like I said, as long as the combat loop is interesting. And I always felt like Borderlands had an interesting enough combat loop. But, with this being my second time through, I might not feel that way so much, so we'll see. But, yep, those are the games that I played this week. Outside of our Game Club game. Yep. See that segue?
Yeah, I just had to ruin it. This is why we can't have nice things.
I was listening to another podcast this week, and one of the hosts made a segue and then called it out because it was a bad segue, and they were like, that was just a bad segue. And the co-host was like, and you made it worse by calling it out. And I was like, yeah, that's my people right there.
All right. There's more of you.
So our Game Club game for this go-around is Alan Wake. Obviously, major spoilers to follow. So how do we want to do the...
let's do all the community stuff after this.
Okay.
Because particularly Katie starts to really get into the meat of the game.
Right.
And our other Game Club one actually doesn't even address Alan Wake, really.
No, like barely. But then Ghost Shark went on and played...
Glitch Hikers.
Yeah, Glitch Hikers. There you go.
So, Alan Wake, this is another one of those games that is more than the sum of its parts. Just like Bastion was, really.
Yeah.
Gameplay-wise, Alan Wake is really nothing special.
No, it's gameplay-wise, it's a fairly generic third-person shooter. With
particularly with the fact that you're facing essentially the same enemies over and over and over again with a little bit of rescanning.
Yeah.
There's, I want to say, not counting the boss-type enemies, the bulldozer, the inloader, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
There are, maybe 5, 6 different enemy types?
Well, let's see. There are... What is the name of the people that are possessed by the darkness?
Taken.
The Taken. Okay. I keep referring to them as ghosts or monsters, but I knew that they had an official name. I just could not seem to put it in my brain. Anyways, okay, so you've got standard Taken.
I'm looking up, seeing... Okay. We have flankers, the ranged, which are the ones that just throw stuff. The flanker, which are the ones that just teleport around and, try to get it behind you.
Right.
Assault chainsaw, and that's it.
Yep. I was going to boil it down to even less enemies than that. I was going to say...
This is boiling it down by the damage chart. How many shots it takes to kill each particular type.
Right. With which weapon?
All of them. Revolver, shotgun, pump shotgun.
Oh, it's got them all listed. Okay. So yeah, there are very
which is also
enemies.
Really addresses one of your complaints, or actually Katie's complaints, but it was also yours about ammo. That the higher difficulties are definitely require a lot more shots per enemy.
Yeah. So we'll get into that when we talk about the stuff we don't like, I guess. What do you like about Alan Wake? Let's start there.
Oh, the atmosphere is just amazing in this game.
Yes,
maybe it's just the fact that I come from a small town to begin with. Granted, I don't live in the Pacific Northwest, so I don't have this type of small town, but it feels very familiar to me.
Right.
One of those towns that everybody knows each other.
Yep. I also have that same experience. I mean, my town, where I grew up and where I live now isn't really a town, but the closest town to me is very much like that. Everybody knows everybody. Very small, there's like a restaurant, a bank, like the cop that everyone knows. So,
yeah, granted, I have recently moved, so I haven't really had the time to, relearn everyone. But, let's put it this way. Where I live, the bank shut down, so it's now the bank in the next town over. And they have an ATM where the old bank used to be. One grocery store, which all the little mom and pop places have shut down over the years. I want to say, most of these are fast food, but like 5 or 6 different restaurants. But like I said, most of them are fast food. Your Subway, your Taco Bell, your McDonald's, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that's mostly supported by the local college, which is in a town near me. So, a very small town to begin with. So, I really resonate with the idea of, one of these towns that it's kind of run down just because, the local industry is kind of falling off and it's just really subsisting on tourism.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally
And they
nailed
the atmosphere in this game.
Oh, yeah.
And even for this being an old game, because they do so many fog effects and lighting effects and everything, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, if you really look at it, you will see, okay, there's some really low res textures here. There's, the trees don't look that great.
Yeah, the only thing to me that really is that really dates this game are the facial animations and the lip syncing. Mm-hmm. Those
No, I
two
completely
things,
agree
like,
there.
you look at those and you're like, oh, this is an old game. But other than that,
Yeah, but then you
the
look at
rest of the
things
game
like
looks
Half-Life
fine.
2, where, look at the facial animations in Half-Life 2.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that the technology wasn't there, that just wasn't their focus.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely focused on more of the atmosphere, which not just the small town environment, but the atmosphere of the game as a whole, which was trying to be very dark, very mysterious, very creepy, without being a survival horror game, without being, oh god, the monster bumps in the night. Like, it wasn't trying to be that, but it was trying to be very atmospheric.
Yeah,
and
which,
it was
because of all the filters and everything, there were a few times that I saw like a fern off in the distance and thought, okay, is that a taken? No. It's that just suspense.
Yeah, I have to say, even on console, because I had this on Xbox 360. Katie and I played it in the living room on the big screen on the Xbox because it's backwards compatible on Xbox One, and it still looks really good there. I think that for me, I was thinking the whole time, wow, this was Xbox 360 for its time was a very powerful piece of hardware. And honestly, I mean, we definitely cannot go this way, but I kept thinking, like, why can't the more modern consoles have games that look this good and play this well and hold up this well over time? I kept having that thought while playing it. I mean, it does, like I said, other than the facial animation and the lip syncing, it really does look great, and it holds up really well under scrutiny. I assume that the PC version looks better.
I didn't take too many screenshots. I did post, looking forward to recording this, and had Barry Allen and the cutout in the car together.
Yeah.
And I will admit that this is my second complete playthrough, and I played through different segments multiple times before this. So this is, I would say, about my third playthrough, and I played through this on easy with the developer commentary turned on. Which, might I add, I wish that more games had developer commentary.
I've never played through with developer commentary on. I'm honestly not sure if that is a feature that's available on console.
I don't think it is.
I just pulled up really quickly a bunch of like side-by-side comparisons of the Xbox 360 version compared to the PC version. In most of them, it's very difficult to tell. Where that you can tell the biggest difference is in the outside environments.
Yeah.
But other than that, they look very similar. Like if you handed me like two pictures and like which one is which, unless it was outside, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and there's also the QR code that they had in I think it was the last flashback to New York. Oh, no. It was in the cabin, I believe. They have these QR codes that are hidden throughout the game. There's 3 or maybe 4 of them that link to different things. And one of them has, this game is fun sitting at a desk and playing on a computer screen. Who knew?
Yeah. But, okay, so what else did you like about the game, other than just the small town environment and the atmosphere?
Oh, I like the story. It's one of those things that... now, I have to say that I know more about the story just because I've also played through the DLC previously, which we're not going to be talking about today.
Right. I've never actually played through the DLC.
Which the DLC more goes into sort of the psyche of Alan Wake and prepping him for the second game, and I played through the second game.
I've never played the second game.
Yeah, the second game is a very, very different beast.
Right. Or is American Nightmare the second game?
Yeah, American Nightmare is the second game.
Okay, I lied. I have played American Nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, which that's also on the Game Club list, and who knows, maybe it'll be next Halloween.
Yeah, maybe. Okay.
But I know some of the answers, but I'm going to pretend I don't just because I know these answers from outside sources. And
right.
I'm limiting my knowledge to what the game offers, and it doesn't offer a lot of answers, but here's the thing, is that they tell you the opening line to this game is literally telling you there's going to be answers in this game.
Yeah. There are not answers in this game to anything aside from how do I get to the end and what happens when I get there. And honestly, even that is kind of like, what? I did look up the story from the DLCs, or I guess the synopsis. So, I mean, I don't have all the fine details, but I know the gist of what happens after the main game.
Yeah, and it's pretty much, him fighting his subconscious at that point.
Right. Which still doesn't seem to give very many answers. Again, the overall idea.
It's more preparing him for the second game's story, where he's, well, I can't really say that because that's spoilers.
Right. One of the things,
there's a tease for you.
Yeah. One of the things that I really liked about the game, which I initially did not like, because Katie and I would sit and talk about this while we were playing through it. I initially didn't like the fact that he's constantly narrating. But by the end...
here's the thing. Here's the thing, is that he's not narrating. He's reading his story. That is segments from the manuscript. Right.
And then when I went and looked at some of the manuscripts and realized what was going on, I went, oh, actually, that's really cool. I kind of like that. I like how that he moves the story forward through that. My initial response was, well, of course, obviously, that's happening because I'm doing it. But then once I thought about it a little bit, I was like, well, that's kind of the point of this. And that's really clever. Because voiceover expository dialogue can be frustrating if it's done poorly. But once it kind of hit me what they were doing, I thought, oh, that's really nice. That fits very, very thematically. I also have to say that even though it was fairly generic, I think that the combat was well done. Because that is such a huge portion of the game.
I'm not sure if I like the combat. I like the progression of the combat, where as the story goes, Alan is getting more and more competent. Because in the very beginning of this story, it feels a lot more like a fight for survival. It feels like you're barely scraping by. But by the time you're in, I'll say about the 4th chapter, you feel like you could take this. And that's also really relating to how he wrote his story, because this is literally his story coming to life.
Yeah. I didn't feel like he was ever just scraping by at any point. I think in the beginning, when your options were a lot more... What
difficulty did you play in?
I just played on normal difficulty.
I tried the opening segment in Nightmare difficulty before, and it is far tougher. It takes a lot longer to burn off the darkness from enemies, and it takes a lot more shots to kill enemies, which I know. It gets back to the bullet spongy thing. But for this, it actually makes thematic sense, because it is this dark, evil presence. It shouldn't be something that, you've gunned out in one shot.
Yeah. I did have this moment where I was like, this dude's a writer. How is he so competent with weapons?
And they actually comment on that he spent time at a gun range.
Right. Well, Katie pointed out to me, she's like, well, I mean, they kind of mentioned in the story, but also you got to remember that you played video games your whole life, and so, it's you. And I was like, yeah, I guess that's true. Sometimes I forget the fact that I, as the player, exert a certain amount of agency over the character.
And also, they really break the fourth wall a few times, calling out writing tropes, particularly things that happen later into the DLC.
I love whenever they break the fourth wall. I love that.
Well, I will spoil one little bit of the DLC. I'm blanking on the character's name. But going towards the Anderson farm, which I fucking love the Andersons. Going towards the Anderson farm, you meet the guy that was stealing their booze. You remember him?
Yeah.
Okay, and he comments, is your best friend going to be the bad guy in the next story? What type of shitty writing is that? Guess what happens in the DLC?
I read, and it did say that in part of the synopsis, that you have to defeat several people from your life, and he's one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. There's just these little call-outs, and even things that if you really pay attention, you'll notice, especially on your second or third playthrough, such as in the original dream segment while you're on the ferry. There's a poster for Tom the Poet that I never noticed in my first playthrough.
Never noticed that. I've never noticed that. I've played twice.
It's actually on the door that Zane comes through, the diver. It has Tom the Poet, then it breaks open, and there he is.
Right. Okay. Cool.
It's just those little things, like the kidnapper is on the ferry.
Yeah, I did notice that. I noticed that. before Alan calls it out in the story.
Yeah. It's just all those little things. And also, going to the diner, all these inconsequential characters that you don't really think a lot about play a lot bigger role later on.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, all the major characters are there, really. Well, I shouldn't say all, but a lot of the major characters are there, at least in some sense.
Yeah, Katie asked me, she was like, why are you standing in this diner listening to these people talk so much? I was like, they become important later.
Yeah, the Andersons are there, which they know how to defeat the Dark Presence. Even though Zane sealed it away, then their music kind of brought it back, and they tried to seal it away, but did an imperfect job, which led to the story of Alan Wake. So they're there. Rose, who later becomes a very important character for the town,
right,
is there. The park ranger, which has an unfortunate fate, is there. Just so much is there in that diner.
Yeah.
And don't forget the cardboard cutout.
Yeah, the cardboard cutout. That's very important.
I love that segment with Barry, him holding up the cardboard cutout.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm Alan Wake, and I'm all dark and moody. That makes me mysterious. There's just little moments of humor in this game, and otherwise a very serious game.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing.
I love Barry.
And should we talk about the best part of this game? And I think you know exactly what I'm talking about.
What are you going to say is the best part of the game?
The rock concert.
Oh, that is amazing. Yes.
Children of the Elder Gods.
Yes. I love that part.
Oh.
I love every part of this game, but...
Yeah. Yeah, but it's just that badass moment, after going through all the woods and all this dark imagery, to have a fucking rock concert.
Yeah.
I mean, while we're talking about things we love, that is by far my highlight of the game, gameplay-wise.
Yeah. Honestly, I wasn't expecting you to say that. Not that it's not an awesome portion of the game, but I wasn't expecting you to say that was the most amazing part.
Well, I'm talking about gameplay-wise, not story-wise, because story-wise, It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But once again, we're coming back to the whole story, real-life segregation, which Katie brings up, actually, talking about, why is there so much ammo around? Because he wrote it that way.
Yeah, he writes in all of it.
And also, it's not just him, it's also the Lady of the Light.
Yeah.
Because if you look around, you'll see these little yellow dots that lead you to hidden caches of weapons. And she is the one that leaves them there. Yeah.
Which, I mean, he points that out in the story, too. Like, if you're struggling, like, why is there so much ammo lying around? At multiple points, he's like,
these aren't standard
issue for the power company.
Yeah.
With flashbangs and stuff. It's like, and, those are clues. Well, those aren't really clues. Those are pretty straightforward, like,
why is this here?
Why is this here? Oh. Okay, because Alan is writing the story, and you're starting to realize that the story is coming true, so he must be putting them in. But, and probably, it would add, because one of the things that we talked about was that the lack of tension in the game. In terms of difficulty with fighting the enemies. We didn't say this in the recording, and everybody's going to get to hear that soon enough, but one of the things that I talked to Katie about when we were playing the game was like, well, I mean, we're playing on just normal difficulty because I wanted to get through it. If we played on the hardest difficulty, we would spend 25 or 30 hours getting through it because I'm not that great of a gamer. Like, I'm not that awesome. So we just need to be able to get through it and experience the story, because to me, that's more what Alan Wake is a story game. But I said that it's probably a lot more hard on Nightmare mode and or the harder difficulty modes, meaning that we would be using more of the ammo.
Well, here's the thing: is that the difficulty settings are actually very difficult or very different on PC and console.
Okay, didn't know that.
Actually, I need to look up because I believe. Continue talking for a moment.
But so that was one of the big complaints that I had about the game, and I think that is more just the difficulty that I was playing it on. It doesn't feel like a very tense game. I was never in danger of running out of ammunition or batteries.
Okay, here's the thing, okay? On console, normal mode is considered easy for PC. So I was essentially playing on the same difficulty as you. Normal is the hard mode. And then on PC, there's a third mode called Nightmare Mode. Which, Nightmare Mode, I'll read this off real quick. There's more manuscript pages to find that are only available in Nightmare Mode. Take an average of 10 seconds to burn away the darkness. Takes around 4 to 8 shots of the revolver to kill. And you have to complete Nightmare or Hard Mode to complete to get Nightmare Mode.
Yeah, well, there's normal, hard, and Nightmare.
So we essentially played on the same difficulty.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because console doesn't have easy. It's got normal, hard, and Nightmare. Which I guess is easy, medium, and hard when you think of it that way.
Yeah, which to be fair, here's the thing is that even on PC, they had a fair amount of aim assist on this.
Yeah.
It wasn't, the whole thing of, PC having a better aiming system. It's, Alan was still aiming somewhat.
Yeah.
But it's the ability to quickly snap to something.
Right. So, but yeah, I never felt like I was ever going to run out of bullets or batteries for my flashlight.
Yeah, if I recall correctly, on my original playthrough, I only really struggled in one segment, and that was more because I wasn't getting as many of the hidden caches as I should. And that was in the very final chapter.
Yeah, I mostly just ignored the hidden caches. I mean, I hit a couple of them, but for the most part, it's just like, I don't need them. So I'm not going to waste my time because I need to get through this game. We need to get through it. So, the only times that I really died were a couple of times it was due to weird things happening
with the physics?
With controller or the physics. Like,
yeah, I had one time where I went to jump. It was in the mine shaft.
Yeah.
I jumped, and Alan kind of caught the edge, but he didn't, and he kind of just slid off.
That happened to me 2 or 3 times. And it was kind of funny. The developer commentary actually kicks in that point. The developer commentary for Alan Wake is this little video in the corner talking probably usually about 30 seconds about a segment of the game. There wasn't a lot of it. I was hoping for a lot more, to be perfectly honest. And he was talking about how he hoped players would enjoy this little puzzle. And it's like, fuck the designers at this point. Because I slid off twice, and I got through on the third time. But it was one of those things that, it was ironic. Yeah. No, I had that thing happen a couple of times where that I would jump, and he would not fully land all the way or something, and would slide off, and
Alan Wake is in a tweed coat. Which just imagine how that coat smells at the end of this.
Yes, he never showers. It's on him the whole time through all of that mess.
Yeah, and he had the week that he was writing. Then he went through all the times that he jumped in the water and dried off.
Yeah, I thought about that quite a few times. But no, so yeah, that was
that coat's just ruined.
That was mostly what killed me. Jumping poorly or my controller not responding as quickly as I'm used to with mouse and keyboard. Just like a tiny bit of lag as he turns instead of just snapping to a direction, and I'd walk off of something and fall to my death. I only got killed once in combat. And it was, I don't know how I got killed, honestly. I think that it was another controller thing, like just not moving as quickly as I wanted it to be, because I was like, I definitely was pushing the right button to move out of the way of that. But
the only time I got killed in combat was during the helicopter sequence. A guy snuck up behind me that I didn't see and hit me, and I just got chain stunned. Yeah.
No, the only time...
I didn't was able to get a flare off in time. That was more my fault because I just didn't pay attention to my left side as much as I should have.
Yeah.
Because I was busy shooting a gas can to blow up the big guy.
Yeah, when I died in combat was in Chapter 2, whenever the kidnapper has a gun and you have a flashlight and flares. And so I couldn't defend myself, and I tried to dodge out of the way, and either I dodged too slowly or the whole, controller delay waiting for the analog stick, the input from that, and I just didn't move fast enough.
I found the dodging to be a little bit hit or miss. It feels like at times that, well, here's the thing, is that I dodged, but I didn't get the cutscene to say that I dodged. It's more just that I already had moved.
Yeah.
Which, the cutscenes, I could really take or leave to begin with. It's one of those things that they starts to get into something I disliked.
Yeah. Yeah, we can move into that. I didn't like the cutscenes either.
Well, there is one other thing that I think we should talk about.
Okay.
That's something I liked. The characters.
Oh, yes. I wanted to talk about that earlier when we were talking about the diner, and I kind of got off topic. All of the characters...
Us get off topic? Never.
All of the characters are so good, so flushed out. And
I mean, granted, a lot of them are kind of cliche, but the thing is that, these characters are cliched partly because Alan wrote them to be cliched, but also cliches have a hint of truth, There's always that cop that everybody knows.
Right.
Or in this case, the park ranger. It's that one guy that everybody knows. There's the crazy person in town. The cliches exist for a reason.
Right. But yeah, the characters are so well written, which makes sense with this being a story-focused game. They would pour a lot
especially
of energy.
A story-focused game about a writer writing a story.
Yeah. How meta can we go?
Yeah, which my favorite three characters are the two Anderson brothers and Barry.
Who are my favorite characters? Barry. I actually really like Alan.
Alan, at the beginning, I kind of hated. Granted, this is going back to my original playthrough, which was a few years ago. It's more he's a jerk ass at the beginning, but you start to, kind of grow on him, and he starts to, kind of mellow out as he's dealt with all this crazy shit.
Yeah. Yeah. I like...
there's this line, you got to be crazy because, it makes more sense that way.
Yeah. No, I liked Alan from the beginning. I thought he was a great character in the beginning, getting to watch him develop. I really like Barry. I mean, it's really hard not to like Barry, if I'm honest.
Only way you could not like Barry is if you don't like a loudmouth New Yorker.
Yeah. I think my other character that I like a lot is Pat, the radio host. Because I really liked to, every time I would find a radio and turn it on, I would just stop and listen to him have his little dialogue.
I listened to all the radios, and I actually got the achievement for the one that I missed on this playthrough. Because, it was on easy difficulty, so I was more incentivized to go look around. Yeah. Yeah. And there was this one in a watchtower that I missed.
I must have missed one somewhere because I still don't have that achievement. But, I mean, every one that I found, I stopped and I listened to it. I really like Pat. He's just... you get this impression that he's kind of selfish at the beginning. But the more you listen to him and interact...
just trying to get that interview with Alan Wake.
Yeah, he seems kind of... Not so much a jerk, but just someone who's inconsiderate.
Yeah.
And then by the end,
he's
you're
a very genuine
really,
person. He wanted something to be interesting for his listeners.
Yeah, he's
thought that interview would be it.
Very genuine, very down to earth, very honest, helpful dude. I really like him. I think he's my other favorite character. Yeah,
which he's a really good character.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there's always the characters that you're meant to hate, like Hartman. Which I would love to hear your analysis of Hartman, because he is, kind of in your field. I mean, not your exact field naturally, but still.
Yeah, he's a psychiatrist who's overstepping his bounds. He's the stereotype of the
evil psychiatrist.
Yeah, the 50s style of psychiatrist who refuses to listen to his patients no matter how crazy they might seem. Like, he's ignoring the relationship portion of mental health, building a relationship with your clients, and he's really seems to be really into drugs to fix problems. Mm-hmm. So he's not a bad guy. He's just an old guy. He's someone who's stuck in the past with the way that he does things, which kind of makes sense with this, backwoods town.
Yeah.
But in terms of actually practicing medicine, he is not doing a good job.
I figured you would have something interesting to say about him.
Yeah.
Because I kind of really forgot about him because, honestly, as an antagonist, he really only plays a role in one chapter. I mean, granted, he is behind a lot more. And if you read the manuscripts, he's kind of a major player in trying to control the Dark Presence. To what ends, we don't really know that, unless it's in one of the hard difficulty manuscript pages, because I want to say probably about 90% of the easy ones. But, you have to go through Nightmare Mode to get all the manuscript pages, and I don't have those. So, it's anything more that's there, I haven't been able to really see, and I didn't look up the hard manuscript pages, so maybe I should have done that just to get the full story there.
Yeah.
But I kind of wanted to see, just what I knew going into this more than, what more I could read about. But it's he's a very interesting character, and I wish I knew more about his motivations because it seems like there's a lot more there. And also Agent Nightingale is the same way, but I think he's more being directed by the Dark Presence because, the manuscript. Did you read the manuscript pages that you found?
I didn't read all of them. I read bits and pieces of them. But again, for time reasons, I didn't read all of them. I chose to spend extra time on other aspects of the game, like listening to all the radio broadcasts or watching all of the
Night
TV.
Springs.
Yeah.
Which I loved the Night Springs episodes.
Yeah, those were
very
great.
Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty positive. Well, I would be surprised if they weren't heavily inspired, if not directly iterative of Twilight Zone.
They have to be.
Yeah.
They never really mention in the dev commentary, unfortunately. But they do talk about how the town itself was inspired by Northern Exposure and Twin Peaks. Heavily inspired by it. Before, really the story started to shape things in its own way.
I like Northern Exposure. Me and Mom used to watch that, actually. Good show.
Yeah,
I've never seen Twin Peaks, though.
Yeah, I never saw Twin Peaks either.
Okay. Do you want to move to talking about some of the things that we actually dislike about the game?
Okay, well, we could do that.
Okay. So what is something that you dislike about Alan Wake?
Really how it kind of spoils itself. That's the big thing for me. And this is going to be in several different things, including the manuscript itself, even though the manuscript does give a lot of behind the scenes stuff, things that they can't really show without it, just jumping to another person entirely.
Right.
I mean, I love that aspect of the manuscript, but when you pick up a manuscript page and it tells you about the boss fight that you're going to be fighting in 15 minutes, that feels a bit much, especially after it happened several times.
Right.
I mean, the first time, it shows, okay, the manuscript is what's happening. And you have to have something like that. But then, to repeatedly do that, that's where it starts to really bug me a little bit. And especially where it really gets me is in the combat itself, where it does that big pan of, ooh, here's the bad guys.
Yeah, I really hate that. I hate that a lot. Because it takes away so much of the mystery and the suspense and the scary portions of the game. I mean, they would definitely fall under jump scares, but I mean, I was never.
Well, I'm not saying that the game doesn't have its jump scares, particularly in the last chapter.
Yeah, but I was never once scared by any of that stuff popping up. Like a couple of times, I would be like focused on something else and be like, I guess.
Only time it really got me
guys.
is a couple times whenever you would go to a door and then it would do that as the Taken burst through the door.
Yeah,
that's the closest it got to me.
Yeah. Now the couple of times where that you would trigger enemies, but it would not do that, and they'd be following you. Yeah, and suddenly you turn around and there'd be 3 guys there. It'd be like, oh shoot! Like there's guys following me. Crap! I've got to fight them. And probably because of the difficulty I was on, I was still never really worried about it. But it did surprise me and make me feel a little bit tense. Like, oh God, how long have these people been following me? I wasn't paying attention to my ammo. or my flashlight battery. I've been looking around for something.
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot more interesting if they had it where you would hear them behind you instead of having the cutscene going, "Ooh, here's the 5 guys that are behind you." Just hear off in the distance, hiking is great for the heart.
Yeah. I disliked the lack of variety in certain aspects of the game. I've been sitting here thinking about the best way to phrase it, because the game is very much focused on telling a story and trying to be atmospheric.
I went right into it. They're not counting boss battles, which to start talking about, the tornado, the bulldozer, that sort of thing. Just your general mooks, for lack of a better term. You only have 4 types.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 5 types. The chainsaw guy.
Well, there's the birds.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about the birds. So 6 types.
Yeah,
they go all Hitchcock
crows.
on you.
Yeah.
Which that's a great line by Barry.
Also, there's the inanimate objects that basically just try and bludgeon you to death. But those are not challenging at all. It's like, oh, a thing is phasing black. Let me just stand, put a pole between me and it and shine my flashlight on it.
Yeah, which
and if I
at times either the physics engine really worked with you or against you, because I had a couple times that they just had this weird bounce that would hit me anyway.
Yeah. I did not experience that, but, the physics engine bugged out more than once on me, so... That's another thing I hated, was the emphasis on physics that didn't do anything. It's like you're walking around and it's like, oh, I just barely touched a chair, and it flipped over and rolled across the room. Like, that's not how that works. I didn't have anything like that.
I did have the chairs that, would just kind of tip over, which, that is actually a nice touch to me. Because it kind of takes me out of it whenever, there's all the elements that, are bolted to the floor.
Yeah. It could just be something console specific. But, all the time, I would touch something, and it would not necessarily, fly across the room.
Havoc bomb, essentially, where it would, it would clip into something, and then the Havoc engine, which I'm not sure if this game is running on the Havoc engine or not for its physics, but... it would clip into something ever so slightly, and then the engine would try to force it out and, just use this extra force and, just shoot off. Yeah.
Yeah, it would do that, or it would have very exaggerated physics. Like, pallets are heavy. Pallets probably weigh, on average, 20 pounds a piece, if they're just, your standard hardwood pallets.
Yeah.
If you just kind of walk into one, at best it's going to fall over. Not... roll across the floor for 5 or 6 feet.
Yeah, see, I didn't have anything like this.
I had a lot of that stuff happen. It might just be specifically to the console version of the game, issues with the physics or something like that. But that was really frustrating for me, because it would just take me out. I'd be in this really dark, scary room, poking my way around with a flashlight. Oh, are there going to be enemies busting out? Is there some kind of puzzle to solve? And it's I just somehow managed to miraculously kick a pallet across the room without breaking my legs.
But then again, this could also... you could write off some of the bugs as being Alan being overdramatic.
Maybe.
That's... if you want to, you could do that sort of thing with this type of game just because of the storyline itself.
Yeah. That's true, but I did not feel about it that way in the moment, so... what else did I dislike about the game? I wish that there were puzzles that were more complex.
I'm not sure if that would really fit with this game, particularly with Alan writing it. Because
maybe.
You have to remember that Alan Wake is an action writer being forced to write a horror game or a horror story.
Right.
So, having these intricate puzzles don't really make sense for him. Yes, it would be nice in a gameplay sense, but it would not really fit with the theme of the game.
That's fair. I
know. I'm shooting you down on this.
No, that's fine. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. I'm just the sort of puzzle elements that do exist get thing from point A to point B by figuring out which button to press, which combination of buttons to press or whatever.
Yeah, but if you think about
really
it, as someone that's more akin to writing stories with a lot of action, slamming your fist against a button to make the crane swing over to give you a walkway makes a lot more sense for that type of writer.
Yeah, that's fair. You make an excellent point that I hadn't considered before. So
for once.
Fair dues. I'm trying to think if there are any other really major problems I had with the game, and I don't think that there are. Overall, I really like Alan Wake.
Shall we dive into the ending then? Because that is something that really kind of bugged me.
Sure.
Was, you really end up with really no answers. You save Alice, and that's really about it.
And you get sucked into pulled into the darkness in the water.
Yeah, you're stuck in the cabin in the dark presence. Typing away.
Yep.
But once again, it also comes back to the very first line of the fucking game. You are not going to get answers in this game. You're going to have to wait for the DLC, which gives a little bit of stuff. The second game, which gives a lot more info, and also tells you what happens to some of the characters, which are kind of just left hanging. I mean, all the characters in the well-lit room, for example, which... that is something that we didn't talk about. Something that we liked was the music. Now that I think about it. Particularly the songs by the Children of the Elder Gods. The extra song from essentially the band that played their music for the Children of the Elder Gods. And I'm blanking on their fucking name now, which I should have wrote down, but I didn't.
Yeah.
And also, even the soundtrack itself, the fact that the game ends with Space Odyssey by David Bowie is so fitting.
Yeah, I feel like the entire audio track for the game, period, is good. Not only is the music and the soundtrack good, but the ambient noise and the sound effects are really good and amplified, depending on where you are in the game, but typically something of sort of a dark, brooding atmosphere. They all go towards reinforcing that singular idea. And overall, it's a very well-crafted...
Poets of the Fall, that's who they are. The band that played Children of the Elder Gods. As a matter of fact, they actually show up in the game.
That's cool.
During the essentially late-night talk show segment that they had, the live-action version of Alan Wake.
Yep.
Which also had Sam Raimi, I believe it was, the writer for Alan Wake. And also, the writer for the Max Payne series. It's like, here we are just throwing everything that we have into this little segment. But the soundtrack, and also if you break down the song, particularly the Children of the Elder Gods songs, it tells you so much about the story. The Poet and the Muse, particularly, but also... Children of the Elder Gods itself tells you, what's going on a lot more. Unfortunately, when you're originally listening to that song, you're having a fucking rock concert battle.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard to listen to originally, but they do have the option to go in and listen to the soundtrack, at least in the PC version.
Yeah.
Including everything, including David Bowie. Which originally, is a little bit of a shock to hear David Bowie in this.
Yeah. Where was I going? It doesn't matter. I get this. I mean, I really like Alan Wake, but I get the sense that you really love Alan Wake.
This was my pick, and this is a game that I played through several times now. Well, 2 times, and played through different segments several other times. I really enjoyed this, even though it does definitely have its shortcomings. The characters, the story, even though the story needs its third game to really have answers, but at the same time, do we want everything to be detailed? Because that's how you end up with fucking midichlorians.
I really like the ending. I love a good ambiguous ending.
I just wish that there was more. I just wish there was more. That's the thing.
Yeah,
and I'm talking about the third game, which there's talks that it may, Alan Wake 2 may come back.
Yeah, that's fair. One of my, I hated. Well, I didn't hate, but I disliked. As an example, I disliked the ending to The Martian, the movie. I like how the book ends, where they get to the ship, and it's kind of like, okay, we succeeded in what we wanted to do, but we still have to make it back home, and our ship is pretty fucked up, and you're pretty injured, and all this other stuff. And in the movie, I liked the ending of the book better, because in the movie it's like, oh, we made it home, and everyone's all happy, and we all get a happy ending. And I'm like,
plus in the book, they shot down the entire fucking Iron Man sequence.
Yeah, well, I mean, that doesn't bother me that much. It's a little annoying, but it doesn't bother me that much. But no, it's, so I like an ending that's not necessarily a happy ending. I mean, he achieved his goals. He saved his wife. He saved the town. He defeated the darkness. At least
what's left of the town, I should say.
Well, yeah, fair play. But, he still kept everyone from being consumed and destroyed.
Yeah, but then you get the very last line in the game. It's not a lake, it's an ocean. What the fuck does that mean?
I think it means there's more to it than you think. So,
and I also have a question of, is Alan Wake even a person, or was he created by Zane? Because you get the autobiographical thing with the clicker.
Yeah. I think Alan Wake is a person. It
may have been shaped by Zane, though.
He very well could have been shaped by Zane, but I think he's a real person. He's who he is,
partly because of Zane, but partly himself.
Yeah.
Sort of like how his story... well, that's the thing, is just how much power does the Dark Presence have? Does his story essentially rewrite the entire area? Because you start to get into that, where everybody is behaving because of the story, playing out the events of it. So just how much free will is left? How much of the original person is left?
I think
was Agent Nightingale a raving, alcoholic, trigger-happy douchebag before the events of the story?
Yeah.
And,
I don't know.
And there's no answers to this. It's left up to the person to figure out, okay, do I want to think that, Agent Nightingale somehow retained his badge acting like this?
Have you ever...
The cliched, overzealous fed.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Stranger Than Fiction?
No, I haven't.
You should go watch Stranger Than Fiction. Stranger Than Fiction is one of Will Ferrell's only serious movies, and it discusses this. The overall plot of the movie is that there's this author who writes stories, and her stories come true, and she winds up writing a story about this person, and everything that she writes happens. And he discovers that she's writing a story about him. And it's like, they have this sort of back and forth, like, I am a person. You did not create me, yet somehow this story that you write is what happens in my life. And they have a very long discussion about what it means to be, in the story. What is my free will? Like, I exist in this story. Do I have free will? And they don't exactly answer that question, but that movie makes a better argument than you and I could ever make.
So, in other words, some secondary media consumption.
Yeah, if you want to continue the discussion farther, a good resource is Stranger Than Fiction. And on top of that, it's a good movie in its own right. It's definitely Will Ferrell's best movie, in my opinion. Because I'm not a big fan of most of his stupid stuff. I'm okay with Talladega Nights, and Step Brothers was kind of but I hate Elf. Anyways, okay, well, we probably should wrap this segment up, given that we've got 15 minutes of audio letters to tack onto the end of it. So,
is there really anything to talk about left?
I don't think so. I mean, I really think that we've, not without devoting a significantly larger portion of time to really discussing the story.
Yeah, that's going to be the next Game Club, where we devote the entire podcast to, well, you'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that all that we really could do is just dive into the story and tackle themes and things like that. And while that sounds fun, that's at least 2 more hours of our lives.
Yeah, and I still have the Angry Pants sitting over here.
Yeah. We've got a couple more news topics and a fairly large community corner. So I think that we should just close with our recommendations. Rage, would you recommend this game? I'm pretty sure the answer is yes.
Yes, with an asterisk. If you're looking for a more action-oriented game, you definitely don't want this. But if you want if you're a fan of Stephen King, you're going to love this. As a matter of fact, they mentioned Stephen King multiple times. Obviously, he had a big influence on the story.
Yeah.
And I do love that the FBI agent repeatedly called Alan Wake different author names.
Yeah, I thought that was really good too. That was both funny and clever.
Yeah. It's definitely not for everyone, but if you want a more story-oriented game that still has its moments of humor, particularly revolving around Barry. Granted, Alan has some of his own. And also, some of the live-action sequences, it harkens back a bit to the old 90s full-motion video games.
Yeah. I would say I would recommend this game also with an asterisk. The story is wonderful. If you're looking for a game to play based around the story, go for it. Also, if you're looking for a game that is not exactly survival horror, but more atmospheric horror, this is a great game. I would call it
a suspenseful game.
Suspenseful, yeah, that's good. A suspenseful,
even though
sort
it does
thriller.
Not really do itself justice in that, because it spoils itself way too much.
Yeah, but it's very atmospheric. It creates throughout most of the game this wonderful, dark, brooding, boding atmosphere. And if you like that sort of thing, even if you're not fully on board with the story, which, I mean, it has some definitely has some flaws, this game will definitely hold up for you. But if you're looking for a very well put together action horror game, something like Dead Space, but with just a not sci-fi theme, this is not the game for you. But otherwise, I agree with everything that you said in your recommendation for the type of person to play it. So, yeah, great. I loved it. So, are you ready to reveal our next Game Club game for 2 weeks from now?
Yeah, this one, what was a close one for two of the voting things. We had 19 votes this time around, which granted, the 19 does count if you vote for multiple things as more than one vote. Right. So this is 19 responses. We had a whopping 3 for WildStar, the MMO. We had 4 for Crash's Choice, Grand Theft Auto 4. And then coming in at a very small 63% with 12 votes, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim.
Yep, so that means that for next Game Club, we will be playing Skyrim. And between now and then,
I'll probably be hating on it in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, between now and then, we might need to come up with some criteria, because Skyrim is about to get the what's the special upgrade edition?
The enhanced edition?
Yeah, Skyrim.
I'm not going to be playing the enhanced edition.
Okay, okay. Well, that's coming plus mods. I will not be playing stock Skyrim, and I seriously doubt you will be playing stock Skyrim either.
I'm probably going to be doing minimum mods. UI mod is definitely required. I'm not going to save this for 2 weeks from now. The UI in Skyrim for PC fucking sucks.
It's not bad if you play with a controller, because it defaults to the controller-based
console. Sorry, I'm playing with a
UI.
mouse and keyboard, particularly because I typically play as an archer.
I'll probably be playing with my Steam controller.
I mean, it is a terrible UI. They should have had an option to toggle to a console-specific UI for more controller-based gameplay, and then a mouse and keyboard UI. It's just, I
think we should set a couple of rules actually right off the bat. I just thought of this.
Definitely have to get through the main story.
Yep, play through the main story, or at least as far as you can, because the main story is still a pretty good chunk of game.
Yeah.
So main story focused, and also I don't think that we should use any mods that does too much to change the content or balance of the game. So fixes for like UI, bugs, that's fine.
I'm definitely going to do the unofficial bug patch.
Yeah, I was going to say that's fine. If you want to do any graphical enhancements, that's fine. Very minimal content changes, nothing that affects the story. So like I've got a couple of weapon and armor mods that I used because I really like the way that they look, and things that they add into the game in terms of weapon variety. But I don't think we should use any of the balances, because there's racial balances and things that change the gameplay balance if you want to be like a mage.
I might do the Khajiit, because I typically play as a Khajiit archer. Changes the racial ability to be a toggle instead of cast every minute.
Yeah.
Because that's just annoying.
Yeah. I play...
But that also comes down to more of just a small quality of life thing more than anything else.
Yeah. I play the magiest mage to ever mage, usually. And the magic rebalance mod makes magic very,
viable?
very, very powerful, which makes it viable. So I'm not going to use that mod. I'll probably will play some sort of warrior class, because I'm not much for archery or sneakery.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be an archer for this one, this time around it once again.
But, okay, so yeah. I mean, modding obviously is a huge portion of that game, but I think we should keep it to a minimum in terms of things that really affect gameplay outside of bugs. And obviously UI, that's fine. That's a quality of life thing as opposed to a major gameplay modification. So, just so that we can stay relatively on the same page.
All right. So, in other words, my Macho Man Dragon mod is fair game.
I mean, I suppose that doesn't change really anything about the game except...
Macho Man is coming!
A visual improvement. Macho Man Randy
It's
Savage.
definitely a visual improvement if the dragon lands and it has giant glasses and a hat on.
I'm probably going to use the Thomas the Tank Engine mod, and then my kid can watch me play Skyrim. That's probably bad parenting. I probably give him nightmares with all the skeletons and the zombies.
He has nightmares anyway.
He does. I don't want to make him worse.
And that's very rude of me to say, by the way.
But it's also true. He has nightmares. Okay.
Poor kid.
Well, that is the game. That was the Choosening. What's our...
now we are at the Choosening, or the new Choosening.
The new Choosening. Our list of games for this next game club. The choices are, your pick was Crimson Skies. That game you told me went abandonware, which I did not know. So
yeah, it's been abandonware for a long time. And as far as I know, I've actually looked for this game digitally, and I cannot find a copy of it being sold anywhere. And any physical copies are either very low quality or quantity, not quality, because they may be a bit worn by now, but that's beside the point. Or they're just completely out of stock. Or they're just absurdly priced for this being, about a 15-year-old game?
Yeah, it's pretty old. It released, I think, in the early 2000s.
Yeah, so, it's pretty much abandonware at this point. So, if this wins, there will be a download link for people to play. And I'm pretty sure it works in Windows 10. I know it worked in Windows 7.
You could probably run it in compatibility mode or something like that.
But, Crimson Skies is alternate history, 1930s, early 1940s, towards the end of the story, flying weird planes out of zeppelins and having a lot of aerial combat with an amazing soundtrack and great characters. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've played it before.
I also have played it before. It's a great game. My choice was Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, which is the crazy over-the-top 80s...
Yeah, yours is essentially Far Cry 3 80s edition.
Yeah.
Which we each have our own retro game of some description.
Yeah. And then the game that we picked between the two of us is free-to-play game Warframe. Astute listeners...
this one's back on the list.
Yeah, would know that Warframe is back on the list, but it didn't get picked last time, so we reserve the right to put it on the list as many times as we want until it gets picked.
Yes, we'll eventually force it through.
Eventually. So... that is the new Choosening. We will find out in 2 episodes what wins the next...
That'll start, for us, it'll start tomorrow at noon.
Yep. All right. Well, that covers that. Now we're going to have our audio letters for Game Club, which is the one that, the sort of little interview style thing I did with my wife, and Ghost Shark, who doesn't really talk about Alan Wake.
Ghost Shark has the even bigger... tangent than us.
Yep. But we'll hear from them.
We really can't talk about that game because I didn't play it because I was playing Alan Wake.
I also haven't played Glitch Hikers. So, yeah, I can't really talk about it either, Ghost. I'm sorry. But we're still going to put you in there because we love you. When we'll be back...
What, we do?
Yeah, I love him. We'll be back after that. Hey everybody, you have either heard Rage and I discussing Alan Wake or you're about to hear us discuss it, but here with me tonight is a special treat for you. I've talked about her many times. It's my wife. Say hello, wife.
Hey everybody.
Go ahead and state your name for the record.
I'm Katie.
Yep. So Katie, we used to play games some, and she would watch me play. And for Alan Wake, since it's a game I had on Xbox, I offered for us to play it together, for her to watch me. And then she said she would record a little thing with her thoughts on the game. Why don't you tell everybody, just very briefly, your history with gaming? Like, just in, I don't know, a minute or two.
Well, before Jared, my history with gaming was like 0. I had a Wii growing up, but we played Wii Bowling and Mario Kart. So we didn't really do much in my household, and I actually was very against strict gamers and people who gamed for a sport, I guess, but grew to enjoy it, and met Jared, and he got me into the world of gaming a little bit more. I still suck at every game we ever played together. But
yeah, you're pretty bad.
Thanks, babe. But I do enjoy watching him play games, mostly because usually I drink, and that makes everything he does a little more laughable.
Yeah, she drinks wine and other alcoholic beverages and heckles me half the time. Although there wasn't really very much of that during Alan Wake.
It's not really a game for heckling.
No. So we only got to Chapter 3 together. Just time and life prevented us from getting all the way through the game together. So did you finish the story? Like, did you go look it up online or anything? Or are you just kind of stuck where we are?
I'm just stuck where we are. I actually bought the book, but I haven't had a chance to read the book yet.
So what do you think of the game from your perspective as a watcher?
As a watcher, it totally sucks. It was really interesting at first, which is why I bought the book, because I should have waited until later and went and decided maybe the book wasn't worth the buy, but I bought the book immediately because I thought it was a really interesting game. The story interested me the most, but from a gameplay perspective, it absolutely sucks because it's all the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, well, I think the problem with what you're doing, and we talked about this a little bit anyways, like from the perspective of the player, you have everything going on in the game to get you from point A to point B. Like, I'm, running from the monsters and killing them and solving the puzzles, and, that's something for me to do to get me from story point to story point, and you're just sitting there like, oh, this is the same thing again and again.
To some perspective, but I mean, I don't know, maybe there was stuff I missed, but I didn't even feel like you were solving puzzles.
Well, I mean, they're not like puzzles in the sense of like, oh, this is a puzzle game, or like putting together a puzzle like you're doing your puzzles, but there are some very minor gameplay puzzles, like figure out how to get from A to B by activating the right switch and getting the thing in the correct position.
Right. Okay, I can see that. But I mean, as far as like a storyline goes, there's no clues as to who kidnapped his wife and what happened and all of that.
So you really weren't paying attention then, were you? Because by going through Chapter 3, you've actually got a pretty decent idea of what's going on.
Yes. No, I did. I know you have a pretty decent idea of what's going on by that point. But it wasn't like, oh, what was that game we played on the TV prior to this? It was like, you were trying to figure out what was wrong with this girl. We assessed that she was probably bipolar or...
Oh, you mean, crap. We've talked about it on the show before a bunch of times. Her Story.
Yes. That, you had specific clues to work with and, like, solve... Essentially like a murder mystery type of solving game. I didn't feel like Alan Wake was that kind of game.
Well, this is more of like an action horror game?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's not very horror-y. I didn't find it scary. Did you think the game was scary at all?
No, I didn't find it scary, but it ran more along the lines of the way a horror story plays out, not a mystery story. And I guess when I went into it during chapter 1, I thought it was going to be more of a mystery story. So I quickly lost interest when I realized that's not how it was going to play.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've never read the book, so the book might be better in terms of storytelling for you.
We'll find out.
Yeah. Okay, what were a couple of things that you really like about the game?
I mean, again, I really like the storyline. I still think it's a great storyline and has potential. And maybe if I was playing the game, the storyline would be enough to keep me interested if I was actually the one doing everything in the game. That was probably my favorite thing, and quite honestly, probably the only thing I really enjoyed. Mm-hmm. Other than, I don't know, occasionally being like, haha, you died.
Yeah. Okay, well, what were like a couple of things that you disliked the most about it?
There was never anything new. It was always, oh, look, there's monsters. You have to shine a flashlight and kill them. And I dislike how unrealistic it is. There's not going to be like billions and billions and billions of bullets just lying around for you to use anywhere. And you don't turn people from a ghost into a real person by shining a light on them. That's dumb. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like there was a lot of very unrealistic things. And there were things that like the whole coffee thermos thing that we ended up looking up where it's a tribute to some story that's out there. And I mean, that's cool and all, but they don't do anything. So I think it's dumb to have them in the game if they're not going to, like we talked about, make Alan run faster or whatever. So I just felt like it was a really unrealistic, like, setup, I guess, for this particular storyline of a game. I could have gotten over the whole flashlights turning ghosts into mortal beings thing, but I can't get over, like, ammo just being, nicely placed there for you.
Yeah, all over the place and in those boxes underneath the lights. And yeah, I hesitate to say too much because obviously, either Rage and I are going to or already have, depending on where this winds up in the show, going to have talked about this, and I don't want to give away too much of my argument or retread too much of it, but that was like one of the things that I pointed out to you, like, I wish the game had some more tension, because basically I'm never out of ammo, I'm never out of batteries for my flashlight, I'm never out of flares.
And you knew by the sounds and the fact that it, like, flashes back and shows you, oh, look, there's this creepy dark image coming at you every single time that there was people. It wasn't just like, occasionally you had that one that you just didn't see or whatever, but you knew every time you were getting into a group of ghosts to fight. Mm-hmm. And I thought, man, this is dumb. Like, you should let him run into them so that I can see him die. Honestly, that was my motivation. I just wanted to, see you fumble and die. But even if it had been me playing and I don't want to die, it would have been really boring if it was, like, warning every single time.
Yeah, there's no tension. Because basically at that point it's like, okay, like, I know where all the enemies are. The only question is, can I kill them before they kill me? And at that point, it's a shooter instead of a survival horror game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Well, I just want to share that my husband has the dumbest smirk on his face right now because this is the first recording I've ever done with him, and he thinks this is the best thing ever, and his wife is super sexy right now. So
she is. I'm really excited.
Just thought I'd let you all know in on that little secret that you can't see.
Yeah, I'm really excited right now. They're, like, really happy. And this is going really well. Like, I was picking on you and asked if you were nervous, and you're like, no, I'm not nervous, but actually you're doing really well with this, so.
I'm very capable of doing audio recordings. Yeah. I just don't usually have time, but I don't know. I'll probably get dragged into a few more after this.
Absolutely. This is going to poll very well with our audience. I can guarantee that. Like, you are like a special snowflake to them.
Oh,
I say lots of really nice things about you. And you're the only you're the second female in our group. The other one is Kyle's girlfriend, Mel.
Yeah.
So.
We met.
Yeah, I know you guys did. That was a treat for everyone in TeamSpeak on Friday. But, okay, we're getting a little off topic, and it is my job on the show to keep things somewhat on topic. So, last question, would you recommend the game to people?
Well, let me clarify. Would I recommend the game to avid gamers or just to anybody?
To anybody. Like, would you recommend the game to people like you who aren't necessarily into games all that much? Like, do you think this would be a good game for them to play?
From the perspective that you could probably honestly make it through and not die and it wouldn't be too challenging of a game, absolutely. Honestly, for an avid gamer, no, I don't think there's enough challenge in it. I honestly think even though I could make it through and not die, I would probably lose some interest in it. But you never know. Somebody who really is just trying to maybe learn how a controller works or really just wants the achievement of making it through a game, because I know how that feels. This might be a great game because you do get the warnings and you do have plenty of ammo. But I feel like an avid gamer is just going to get bored.
Unless they're really into the story or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. Well, thanks for doing this, sweetheart.
No problem.
I love you.
I love you too.
Okay. Tell everyone bye.
Good night, y'all.
Hey guys, it's Ghost Shark again. Just sending in my contribution for the game club of Game of the Week. It's going to be slightly different than everybody else because I did not get Alan Wake. Two reasons. One, money's a little tight right now and I couldn't afford it. And two, the whole Alan Wake series just never really appealed to me anyway. It's nothing... I'm just not a big fan of the horror suspense type games unless that kind of stuff comes in under a different genre, if that makes any sense. You know, if it's got those kind of things in a, say, an action game or something like that, then I'm interested. But straight up horror, suspense, you know, The Last of Us, things like that, I'm not a big fan of. Anyway, my game for the week was one of the other ones that was on the list. It was Glitch Hikers. It was free. Well, sort of. I'll get to that in a minute. And it also seemed like it was short. So I played through it a couple times. And I actually recorded one, and I'll put it up on YouTube here in a little while, or whenever I can. But it was an interesting little game. I don't want to get too much into it because of the nature of it. I don't want to spoil too much. But there is some random elements to it, so it's not like you're going to get the same thing every single time you play. But basically, you're just driving down the road, and odd things happen. There's some really trippy music on the radio. The DJ on the radio has some very interesting things to talk about. And along the way, you may encounter other people along the road and have some very interesting text conversations with them that you can answer different ways and kind of see what happens from there. All in all, it's not a bad thing to try. It's not, it's no Fallout or other super long, 100-hour game. I think my playthrough that I recorded was about 20 minutes. So, but it is a very interesting little thing. Kind of a cerebral game. Kind of made you think a little bit. But, yeah, it was interesting. So, the reason I say it's free, sort of, is it's a pay-to-win, or not pay-to-win. Wow, really? Okay, let's try this again. It's a pay-what-you-want game. And if you want, you can pay no money. And I decided to do that just to see what the game was all about. And if I liked it, I'd send some money their way. And I will probably do that. I'll send a couple bucks their way because it's interesting. I think it's worth it. So, I don't know. That's about it for my little spiel here. I don't want to go too crazy and long because I think I did it on the last audio letter. So I will just go ahead and end this now and hope to hear what you guys think about it, if you guys have tried it or not. So I will talk to y'all later. Bye.
All right. Thank you to our audience for contributing to the extended length of this podcast episode. And
yeah, I'm pretty sure we addressed. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we addressed everything that Katie really said. And well, to be fair, we listened to these before, and I did particularly address the same things that she brought up. So
right.
And Ghost Sharks can't really talk too much about it because I didn't play Glitch Hikers.
Yeah, I mean, But
if he wants to play his own thing, that's perfectly fine. That's a valid thing.
Yeah, we'll allow it. Okay, well, let's move on to our first news topic, which is probably going to be a shorter one. Bethesda has announced...
Hang on, let me get my angry pants back on.
Bethesda's announced that they're withholding review copies as their new official policy. The gist of this, just to boil it down, it was a pretty short article, but to boil it down to the essentials is they've said that they're not going to give review copies out until the day before release of a game so that everyone can play the game at the same time and experience it together. And somehow, not having review content for games is better for the consumers. I don't know how.
What the fuck?
I don't know how that's possible, but Bethesda says so, and they've never messed anything up before, ever.
Yeah, it's not like they tried to sell people fucking mods or sold people horse armor for a DLC.
I did buy the horse armor. I really liked it.
Technically, I bought the horse armor because I bought the Game of the Year edition for Oblivion on Steam. So technically, I bought it, but I wasn't buying it a single. So maybe I'm part of the problem there. I don't know. But Bethesda, what the fuck? And it's not even this. Here's where this entire fucking spin gets down. And yes, the angry pants are on, and I have the belt on as well. Where it really breaks down, okay. Their entire fucking bullshit argument, it completely breaks down because they're still giving the paid content, the YouTubers, the streamers, they're still getting it fucking early before they even give it to the fucking reviewers.
This might be the angriest I've ever heard you be.
Because this is bullshit and hugely anti-consumer. And the thing is, Bethesda has a history of releasing broken-ass games. And the fact that reviewers can't tell us about it now before day one, because there's no way that they're going to be able to tell us before the release date. I mean, you have 24 hours. It's completely asinine and backwards. What the fuck is Bethesda doing?
I think that they're doing something to see if they can get away with it. I think that that's the case. And I don't know if this is an issue that anybody could really press them into doing the opposite. I mean, look at companies like Nintendo and Konami.
That's the problem is that you can't really say, well, we'll simply just not buy their games, because look at the fucking pre-orders. People buy pre-orders left and right. And that's partly because, we are the enthusiasts still. We are not the average gamer. The average gamer sees, oh, well, there's a new Dishonored coming out. Well, I better get that. It's very depressing to me. And it's also going to strongly impact the quality of reviews. Granted, reviews on a lot of these games aren't particularly great in quality to begin with. But now, because there's no embargo, yes, I'm actually arguing for embargoes here as well. Because there's no embargoes, people are going to be rushing to try to get their reviews out as quickly as possible, and it's just going to drop the quality of these fucking reviews as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I am pissed off about this. Can you tell?
Nah. You seem totally chill, man. Like you've been smoking a huge bag of weed or something.
I think the Bethesda PR has been smoking a huge bag of weed.
They got some.
I mean, they have to be fucking on
ideas.
something to believe that this spin is actually going to work. I love the article, by the way, what they said about their spin on this.
Oh yeah. Let me pull it up so I can actually quote it.
Be able to harness it as an alternative energy source.
Yeah, the spin on this is so hard it might be possible to harness it as an alternative energy source. amazing. I laughed at that. That was brilliant.
So now, not only Bethesda, a company that is notorious for having broken releases, people aren't going to know about it.
Well, I wouldn't say broken. They have buggy releases, but somehow, for the most part, their stuff seems to work.
I'm pretty sure that one of the Elder Scrolls had a bug that completely broke the main storyline at one point on the release.
Wasn't that Elder Scrolls Morrowind?
To be fair, I think saying, well, I'm pretty sure Bethesda had a bug in an Elder Scrolls game that broke the entire game. I think you could say that about all their games.
Oh, yeah, no, they have loads of buggy games, but... yeah. Ubisoft, I think, still has the honor for having the games that are the most broken on release. But, I mean, I'm not giving Bethesda a pass, just I don't think that they have got the reputation for releasing, like, completely fucked games. Just kind of ones that are suboptimal.
Not completely fucked, no, just somewhat fucked.
Yeah.
They're the Diet Coke of fucked.
But since this release, I've already seen several YouTube channels that I'm subbed to post content, like, very much, like, slagging this off. Like, Jim Sterling wrote, recorded, edited, and published a Jimquisition, which he says takes him a long time to do because there's a lot of live action stuff he does for those. That and put that up this afternoon. Well, I guess it's after midnight, so yesterday, Tuesday, about it. I've got a couple other smaller gaming channels that I've subbed to that are already talking about it and how awful it is. I haven't watched any of these videos. I need to watch them, but it's just like, this is immediate negative backlash from people who know what they're talking about in the industry.
I hesitate to think of anybody that could actually support this. Who just doesn't have their head shoved so far up their ass that it's a miracle that you can understand what the hell they're saying.
I mean, Bethesda supports this.
Like I said.
Probably a lot of other game developers support this, but, that's because it's anti-consumer and helps them in the long run.
It helps them get those precious day one sales so they could say, well, we're the biggest selling, Dishonored 2 is the best-selling game in the Bethesda for 24 hours. It's one of those things that, they focus so much on the first 24, the first 48, or even the first 24 or 48 hours, or the first 7 days of sales, that they could completely negate, their views on, the long tail, especially for PC gaming. That's where it is.
Especially for
here.
Bethesda. I mean, we talked about Skyrim.
Keeps getting in the top sellers every single damn time it's on sale.
And that game's 5 years old. And I mean, it's constantly, it's done that for year after year after year, and it will continue to do so, I suspect. So, you think that Bethesda, out of everyone else, would understand the value of that, but...
And the fact that Bethesda is being so anti-consumer here, when they rely on their consumers to fix their fucking broken games.
Yeah. I've always thought of Bethesda as one of the good ones. Not perfect. Absolutely not perfect, but I've thought of them as
you gotta love
one
this
of the
coming
good ones.
out literally the day that we're chose it for the game club.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've always thought of Bethesda as one of the good ones. So
Bethesda was severely tarnished with the whole paid mod debacle. Granted, they did get some props for backing down from it, but the fact that they proposed it in the first place still left a stain on them. So the fact that they're doing this, honestly, doesn't fucking surprise me at this point.
I let that go. They backed down from it. They had
obviously.
They suggested something, the community shot it down, they listened to the community and backed off of it.
I didn't let it go because I thought they would do something else fucking stupid, and look, here we are.
Well, I mean, if you hold that viewpoint, of course, everybody, every company, everything is going to eventually do something stupid. So.
Not to this level of stupid. And to have the bullshit spin and still negate their entire argument by giving out their copies to their paid promoters. I mean, it's laughable. If it didn't piss me off so much.
Well, we wanted to put this in here for your angry pants.
And what scares me is that other game developers may look at this and, well, I shouldn't say game developers. I think publishers, the suits, may look at this and think, well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And we're going to see just even worse reviews. Granted, reviews haven't been that great lately anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pissed off.
Okay. Well, since you're pissed off, it's a good time to transition to something that makes me happy, which is the Nintendo Switch.
Something that makes me kind of indifferent, to be honest.
Yeah, I really...
Which, should we go ahead and do the question of the week, since it relates to the Nintendo Switch?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead before we start. Read it off.
Yeah, I did ask, what are your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch announcement? And let's see, Million Lights. Can I plug it into a PC? No. Good. Couldn't care less. Groove. I'll help you. I couldn't care less. Chemist. Exactly what I expected. Waiting on info about the dock specs and something about the tablet. Rumor has it no touchscreen or gyro. I still won't buy it because I'm an indie guy and I really want to dig out my DSi right now. Kyle. PC gamer. Don't care much. Ghost Shark, I'm a sucker for innovative design, but I don't have the time/money for a new console. Too much to keep busy with. And then, Groove also said, I think I can see where this is going. So, yeah. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, I think. Partly because Nintendo is being very close to the chest with their info.
I have to say I'm in the exact opposite of the scale. I want to go buy one of these right now. If they were available in stores... As long as they have some games and the tablet isn't a piece of garbage when it's not connected to the dock, I would go buy it right now.
Well, the thing is that the dock is literally a power brick.
I know.
The only thing that could change that is if it had some sort of power mode to try to extend its battery, and this thing is going to have a lot of batteries in it.
Based on a rumor that I heard from another games. A person in the games media, if you set it to maximum so that it's not conserving battery power, it'll last for 3 hours. Almost 3 hours. So,
yeah, that's not good. I'm expecting Nintendo to sell additional batteries for this thing. Plug it in or something.
Have additional battery packs in the controller.
Yeah, like a power bank or something.
I mean, I don't care. I'm fine with that. This is very clearly not targeted at kids.
Yep.
This is not their traditional market of kids and old people. This is targeted at people who are younger.
This is Nintendo trying to get back to the core demographic for gamers. You can see in their ads, there was not one old person, there was not one kid, and also there was not any waggle controls.
No. Everybody in their ads was in their 20s, maybe in early 30s. And honestly, I don't need it to have, a 10-hour battery life. I just want it to be able to be powerful enough to play the games that I want to play while I'm sitting at the clinic waiting for clients or on the short plane ride from here in Tennessee to where my in-laws live in Colorado, which, if the battery lasts 3 hours with it at its most power-hungry settings, turn that down just a little bit, it can make it 4 hours on the plane. That's all I want it to be a good gaming device for. And when it comes to consoles, the Nintendo console, the Wii U, is the only console that gets turned on a regular basis for games in this house. We use the Xbox all the time for Netflix, Hulu, that sort of stuff, because we don't have a smart TV. But when it comes to actual games that we play on a console, the Wii U gets used more than the Xbox, hands down. And yeah, I play more PC games than console games, but when it comes to console games, 9 times out of 10, I'm picking up the Wii U to play Smash Brothers or Mario Kart or, Zombie U or Monster Hunter or a couple of other games that I have that I'm not super huge fan of, but are fun to play, or I'm playing something on Virtual Console, an older title like Metroid or Paper Mario or something like that. So this very much appeals to me.
Yeah, for me, one, I'm kind of gone away from consoles in general. But I will say that the design looks interesting. How they're trying to essentially combine their mobile and home console units, their home console sales. And I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to appeal not to the Western market, but to their Eastern market. Because in Japan, Nintendo is a lot bigger with their handheld units. And they're losing big time to mobile phones now.
Yeah.
So I think this is more Nintendo trying to make their Japanese market a lot happier by offering a more powerful console and offering it worldwide.
Yeah, I think they're testing the waters to see if they can replace the 3DS. Because the DS line of handheld consoles goes back to the early 2000s. I mean, yes, there have been revisions, there have been improvements, but as a platform, the DS has had
It's been essentially unchanged.
Yeah. And so
it's been upgraded, but it's unchanged.
I think they're testing the waters to see if they can replace the DS with the Switch. And plus, they have the benefit. So Nintendo has, over the last decade, lost
Their
huge
fucking mind had
amounts.
been doing some weird innovation stuff.
They've lost huge amounts of third-party support. By doing this, by making their console, their home console and their handheld console the same thing, they can essentially double the amount of first-party titles that they're releasing for their console.
Yeah, they're essentially double dipping. Instead of doing a Mario game for the DS and a Mario game for the Wii U, now it'll be a Nintendo Switch Mario game, and that'll be both.
Right.
Granted, there may be different modes where it turns down the graphics, or where it's really going to get weird is the controllers, because they showed several different modes for the controllers, where one is essentially each person has one half of the controller and it's separated, because the controllers have this snapping thing that they showed over and over again. They showed it snap onto essentially a power dock for home use to charge the batteries in them, which there's going to be 3 batteries in this thing. There's going to be the tablet battery and then a battery in each of the controllers.
Yeah.
That's a lot of batteries.
Yeah.
But they showed different modes where you hand it off to a friend and at a random party, because bringing a Nintendo Switch to the party is going to make you the life of the party, right?
Oh, I see what you did there. I see. It's a bad joke you made there.
Well, thank you.
But
you still laughed.
I did. I will say I think the Switch is a stupid name. Stupid name. There are a lot of people that like it, and granted, they have sinned worse in the past.
It's not a Wii. Granted, they didn't name it Wii something. They got away from the Wii name, which they desperately needed, because a lot of people thought that Wii U was simply an upgrade or peripheral to the Wii.
Yeah. I mean, Nintendo has sinned worse. Other gaming companies have sinned worse, but Switch is still stupid.
Yeah, I think that NX wasn't a bad name in of itself. Call it the Nintendo NX. That would have been, granted, it probably doesn't roll off the tongue a lot, and it probably would have been tough to get the domain or maybe the copyrights on it. Maybe that's why they did it.
Maybe.
Because you have to remember that, they have to copyright these things, so sometimes the best name just doesn't work out.
Yeah, that's true. Still, they could have done better than Switch.
What do you think of them showing Skyrim so much? Yes, we're going back to the Bethesda once again.
I think that's dangerous, because there's been a lot of games
Bethesda,
that have not confirmed that they're going to be
Bethesda
there.
has flat out said that they haven't confirmed for the Switch yet, for Skyrim.
Yeah.
And I was actually digging around in comments, and people were talking about how, I believe it was the Wii U, they showed a lot of Metro 2033, and it never came out for Wii U.
Yeah.
So right now, take everything that you see in this announcement with a huge Mount Everest grain of salt.
Yeah, there have been, and I don't know them right off the top of my head, but there have been some developers that have confirmed, but by and large, that huge list of game devs that they said would be supporting the Switch have not confirmed. So outside of Nintendo first-party support and a few developers who have confirmed.
Yeah, the Mario game that we saw is probably going to exist.
Yeah.
Because, the Mario game always exists.
We know Zelda Breath of the Wild exists.
Yeah, that's pretty much a given. Now, the question is if it's going to be a release title or not.
I would think that it would have to be, but it might not. I mean, Nintendo does what Nintendo wants, even if it doesn't make sense, usually when it doesn't make sense to anyone. So, yeah, I'm excited for the Switch. As long as, like I said, they release some specs and say, okay, here is the kind of power you can expect when you're running this thing on batteries alone. And as long as that's fine, I'm in.
Yeah, well, here's the rub, is that Nintendo has said that they are not releasing any specs or any more info about the Switch this year.
I mean, that's fine. The Switch doesn't release until March of next year, and that's if they don't push it back.
Yeah, but they are playing this so close to the chest that it makes me cautious to even wildly get interested in this thing.
No, I disagree. I think that's smart marketing. What Nintendo has done for so long is we're a low-power, cheap console for the masses. We're for kids. We're for old people who don't usually game. We're for your family. And I think what they've done with this announcement is say, right, Nintendo, we're now for hip, cool millennials and middle-aged people who have disposable income and want to play video games. We're for the hardcore gamer crowd. And people start asking, oh, what's the Switch like? What's your specs? What's all this stuff? And,
fuck you, you're not finding out till next year.
And they're like, you know what? We'll tell you about it later. Right now, let's focus on how cool and hip we are. And I mean, like, me and you, like, okay, yeah, whatever. That's whatever. But, to most people who don't care...
Once again, we are not the average gamer.
Yeah, their marketing is really focusing on millennials and, younger Gen Xers. Like, this is the crowd with all of the disposable income that plays games the most. Let's target those guys and let's keep our message very much focused on, hey, we want you guys to buy our thing. You're in our target market.
Look, you give Mario Party, bring a Switch to the party that you're being invited to, and never get invited to a party again because everybody fucking hates you now.
Actually, that works out great for me. I don't want to go to parties anyways. So...
I will say that the idea of them combining their portable and home console line is interesting. But it's going to be one of those things that it's a risk, a huge risk actually, because it pretty much ends the Game Boy line. I don't see them doing a Game Boy at this point. It would actually be stupid of them to do a Game Boy, unless they do a very, very niche Game Boy, sort of like the Pocket Edition of the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Because that's one problem with this, is that this isn't exactly as portable as the Game Boy is.
No, you can't just put this in your pocket. Yeah, it's a tablet. It's got to go in a case.
I don't think they would want to call it a tablet. And they do have their stupid name in this, by the way. But it's not the console itself. It's what they're calling the controllers. It's the Joy-Cons.
I feel like something's been called the Joy-Con before. Let's just Google that real quick. No,
so you didn't get away without any stupid name in this. Even though the Switch, but it's one of those things that it's going to be. It's very much wait and see. See what they announce for particularly the opening lineup for their games. What their specs are going to be, and just really, what the fuck.
Still looking for Joy-Con. I swear I've heard that name before this. But I'm going to give up soon because we don't have time to waste.
Well, it is only 1:30 in the morning.
Nope, nothing. I'm not going to spend any more time looking at it right now. I'll find it later.
Well, obviously, there hasn't been anything well known about it because they probably trademarked that name.
Probably. I wonder if it's just like maybe there used to be an old brand of third-party controller called Joy-Con or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's where I'm... Because, I was at one point in my life a poor child whose parents didn't understand video games, and I got the Mad Cats and the Pelican controllers.
Yeah, Mad Cats was always a very mixed bag on what they did with their controllers.
Yeah, but I've had plenty of those controllers in my life, so... All right, well, let's move on to our final news topic for the week, which is the video game voice actor strike that is currently going on. We were going to mention this last week, as in, they might strike if they don't get the deal they want.
Yeah,
well,
but we kind of ran out of time.
Yeah, and they didn't get the deal they wanted anyways, so now they're going on strike. Rage, you wanted to talk about this. I mean, not that I'm
I think the more interesting
thing
thing is some of the things that's come out about this.
Like what?
Particularly some of their demands. The main thing is that they were talking about how they don't get really any info about what their projects are. They're given the lines, and that's about it.
Right.
Which that sounded, them complaining about that. I can understand that.
Yeah. I've heard some stuff from Jesse Cox. I know you're not a big fan of him, but originally he was
I'm not a fan of his. The character he plays. He's kind of. I think he's an acquired taste.
Right. Well, he originally did a lot of work in voice acting. I mean, he's got an IMDb page with voice acting roles in it. And I've listened to him talk on a couple of things about what it's like to do voice acting. And that was one of his biggest things. Like, most game companies don't give you insight into your character. They just tell you to read your lines. And if you don't do it the way they want, they'll tell you to make changes. Occasionally you get some of that, or you get a really good voice coach who is telling you, okay, I want you to read these lines this way because you're trying to portray this in a character. So, I mean, voice acting is very, very difficult in certain ways compared to regular acting because you're
going into a blind.
Yeah. I mean, you're standing in a recording booth, recording lines. You might be able to kind of move around a little bit, but you can't do anything with your body. You can't, you don't have any way to direct yourself and pour other energies, meld other energies together. You only have to rely on your talent to mold your voice to what they're expecting you to do. And that's difficult. I have done some, not voice acting, but narration and things like that for little projects here and there for people that I know. And
it's not like we run YouTube channels where we do a lot of voice work.
Yeah, there's also that. But, I've done projects where I've been directed by other people. And voice acting is tough. I've done some improv acting as well. And improv is much easier than just voice acting because, you get to play a whole character and your movements and your persona dictates how you act. When it's voice acting, it's just, okay, I need to be gruff and tough. Okay, let me, drop into my angry guy voice, which that's really crappy, but I'm just making a point.
I was waiting for you to say, drop into our angry guy voice. Rage?
Rage, would you mind reading my part for me? So, I mean, that totally makes sense. Absolutely.
But I could also see the flip side of that, of why they're not told this, because that would be a bargaining chip. Also, being told that you're doing voice work on the next Fallout game or the next Elder Scrolls game. Yes, we're going to be crapping on Bethesda again, by the way.
I was going to say, on the flip side, there have been lots of cases where the voice actors have revealed that games exist because they...
Yeah, I was going to get to that as well, but I was going the bargaining chip first.
Yeah.
Or even accidental reveals. I remember one of the Borderlands 2 DLCs was accidentally leaked because Ashley Birch took a selfie, and in the background you could see a poster.
I believe it was Uncharted. One of the voice actors from Uncharted revealed that the game was going to be releasing like 2 years before it was even announced officially. Like they were making a fourth one because they'd been doing some voice work. There's been several other games that's happened as well. Games have been revealed, or release dates have been revealed, or at least approximate release dates and things like that, well beyond their intended time because a voice actor sends out a tweet or posts something on their LinkedIn page.
Or takes a selfie and has a poster in the background.
Yeah.
Let's see. The other another one that they were talking about was getting double pay for doing work that is very vocal intensive, particularly grunts and yelling and that sort of thing. Which I'm going to say, that one is more on the voice actor to well, maybe this ties into not knowing what their character does, but you're agreeing to these payments. So maybe, just maybe, it's coming down to just you're not knowing this is coming up, but at the same time, you're also negotiating your pay there.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where I really come down on this one.
Well, most normal actors, or I guess screen actors, have got oftentimes contracts are negotiated with clauses if they're going to be, for example, doing their own stunts or things like that, where they get bonuses.
Which there's mocap work in this as well, which some voice actors have to do.
Yeah, but so actors will negotiate bonuses to do their own stunts, which makes the film more authentic and things like that. So, I mean, I could see that, although long-term voice...
this comes down to more contract thing.
Yeah, plus long-term vocal injuries are much more difficult.
And they also wanted the sessions limited to 2 hours per session, but have it billed as 4 hours. That's where the double pay comes from, by the way.
Right.
Which I can understand, wanting shorter sessions for more vocally stressful work. But, then trying to bill it as double, that...
Yeah. I mean, some of that stuff I understand. Some of it doesn't make any sense to me. But I know that, for example, like whenever you're working on a movie, whenever you hit certain time thresholds, you go to automatic double time, automatic triple time, so on and so forth. And I don't know if it's the same sort of idea as that, just for a different type of work, because the voice work would be more strenuous than just standing around on a set. But maybe, I don't know, that one could go either way for me. I see both sides to that argument, depending on what they're really going for.
Yeah, here's another of the domains. They have 4 primary domains that I've at least seen people talk about. May have more that I just haven't dove into enough. And there's a lot of stuff on this topic, by the way.
Yeah.
Which this one's I completely support. Requiring stunt coordinators for mocap sessions. No problem with that.
Yeah. No, that's, safety and better work, honestly, if you've got someone...
Well, it really depends on the type of mocap session as well. If it's just walking around, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if it's doing more action-oriented stuff, then I completely understand having stunt coordinators or wanting stunt coordinators there. Here's the one that's kind of interesting, though, and I'm not sure if I support this or not. The secondary compensation. Did you read about this?
No, I haven't seen that one.
They want additional payout for every 2 million units sold of a game that they voice act.
Okay. I have seen that, actually. I haven't seen it
to a total payout of at 8 million, which is where it caps out, of £3,300. This is someone quoting the British version of this, but it's now. That doesn't sound like a lot to begin with, but you have to remember some of these games, especially AAA games, have huge voice casts.
Yeah.
And the reason why I kind of balk at this, one is that, I'd much rather see the developers themselves, the guys in the coding pit, get rewarded over this.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I think that this is because this is something that happens pretty frequently with Hollywood, movies and things like this as well. For example, Robert Downey Jr. with Marvel negotiated in his contract around the Iron Man 3 time when he was going through the, is he going to stay on? Is he not going to stay on? Because he was going through all these contract negotiations. And to some extent, it's a little bit different from movies because obviously the actor is what 100% sells a movie. But I mean, he negotiated.
But I don't think voice actors are nearly in that vein.
No, but to some extent, I mean, some games, for example, iconic characters like Nathan Drake or from Destiny, they changed from Peter Dinklage to what's his name? I can't think of the other voice actor off the top of my head. He's one of the biggest voice actors in video games. Whatever. They changed to a different, big name voice actors, the big personalities that do have a chance to really improve a game, which can increase sales based on the performances of these actors, I don't have a problem with them trying to negotiate additional payouts. Robert Downey Jr. in his contract negotiated a 1% payout.
Nolan North was who was replaced.
Thank you. Nolan North is who I was trying to think of. But, Robert Downey Jr. negotiated, I believe, is a 1% as a royalty payment for...
And by the way, he also voices Nathan Drake.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to go double check that just to make sure I didn't make an ass of myself.
I just couldn't think of Nolan North. I was pretty sure that was who it was.
But then again, Nolan North is how much of video game acting?
But I mean, Nolan North is a big name, and there are other big name voice actors.
Yeah, but do people really buy the game for Nolan North's voice acting?
I mean, that's a difficult question to answer. Perhaps not, but, if you had, for example, a lower quality voice actor, would you make the character as iconic as they are? I don't think so,
Right.
I mean, it's hard to separate. Nolan North makes Nathan Drake, I mean, could they have had a different voice actor? Possibly, if they're talented enough. But that is a huge portion of a character is what they sound like, So
Maybe I'm just seeing this, and I'm a little concerned that the AAA companies that use a lot of the SAG voice actors are going to go... try to cut down on the number of voice actors that they use now. And we're just going to see essentially Elder Scrolls Oblivion, where you had Patrick Stewart, Sean Bean, and then about 5 other people voicing everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, that's very possible, I think that there's pros and cons to both sides of the argument, but, I'm not going to stand in the way of people trying to get more money for something that they believe
it's
they're
going to be
worth.
interesting to see where the game companies come down. Because I believe they had something like 200 people show up at the offices of EA to picket.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what demands they get. And I hope that this spurs the coders and the artists to... unionize or get guilds together as well.
Yeah, because
that's the big thing. We talked about this literally last week about the guilds. Guilds are unionizing to try to counteract all the shitty working conditions.
Yeah. I saw an argument made by some anonymous developers that were saying, well, I mean, the voice actors don't deserve to be paid more, because then they'd be getting paid more than we are, and we actually make the game that they voice act for. And, okay, fair enough, but the argument that I've heard in response to that I think I agree with more is, hey, you know what? You're right. Maybe you should be paid more. Maybe you should receive more benefits. Maybe you should be treated more fairly. And I think that's the case. I think that there is enough money made in games that people who work on them, of all kinds, programmers, artists, coders, which, program, whatever, but, voice actors.
Yeah, I think this is the first step towards hopefully improving the working conditions in the gaming industry.
I hope so. I mean, unions, for better or worse, have enacted lots of change in history around the world. I wish that we had more unions in the United States. I'm not always the biggest fan of unions. Sometimes the way they go about doing things is a little bit predatory and can be anti, the people who are in unions, anti-workers. But that is very rare that happens. By and large, unions are more helpful to the industries that they exist in. And I wish that the games industry had some more unions. And I hope that this starts a trend as opposed to causing there to be legislation or strong pushback against unionization.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where this all ends up. And like I said, I hope this is the first step just to try to improve conditions.
Yeah, I hope so. I wish them the best, If they...
Even though I'm not sure if I agree with the royalty thing, just because I'm not convinced that the voice actor sells the character or it sells as many copies.
Yeah.
It's a fine point on a larger scale.
Yeah. I mean, there are certain points that I agree with more or less, and the royalty one is a little bit harder for me to understand or accept, but I also am not opposed to it, If they feel like...
I'm not opposed to it. It's just it's harder for me to really see the argument.
Yeah.
Compared to we want stunt coordinators at mocap sessions. Now, as long as it's not like literally every single mocap session you need a support coordinator. Have it be reasonable.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I think that was an interesting argument.
That was a very spirited discussion. That was nice.
Hey, and we disagreed.
Yeah, we agreed to disagree amicably. Well,
so now you shoot me under the rocket of the Apollo 11?
Right. Fuck you.
Or am I making too much of a Men in Black reference?
Nope. Fuck you. Oh.
Why don't we agree to disagree? It's just Boris.
Oh. Okay.
I thought that was a fun movie.
It was a fun movie. Let's move on to our final segment of the show this week, because as I think we mentioned earlier, there were no good Steam deals this week.
The Steam weekly pick is to go check out what they have on sale right now, because the day that this drops, and by the time you actually get to this, unless you've been skipping around or you're a cheeky little monkey,
yeah,
the Steam Halloween sale should be ongoing, and there may be something worth checking out there.
Yeah, but
I actually have no idea.
There are very few games that are actually on sale from time of recording until next Monday, which is what we recommend like 99% of the time. So just go see what's on the Halloween sale. Hopefully it's good. Who knows?
Yeah,
I
and
might
even
buy
the
something.
Humble Bundle, I don't know any of the fucking games on this.
Yeah, so we're not doing that this week. Instead, we've just got Community Corner to wrap us up. So, audio letter time. We've got, let's see.
We have Groove up first.
We've got, Groove up first. I was just thinking, like, how many went to this and how many went to Game Club? But we've got 2 audio letters and 1 text letter. So, We're going to do Groove first. Say hello.
Oh, my.
Say hello to my little friend. I don't know why I did that. Just listen to Groove.
Hello, this is Kyle coming at ya. Oh wait, that was someone else. Let's do this again. Hey y'all, the voice you hear belongs to Groove, and I finally do my very first audio letter. After 39 episodes of VGL podcasts, I won't remain silent any longer as Jared forced me to send in a letter. Some of you might already know me, but for those who don't, I'm a random German guy who found this podcast thanks to Kerbal-Cast. In fact, I play a lot of Kerbal, but everything else is okay-ish, as long as it isn't mobile or on a smartphone. But, as everyone knows, I won't do dumb labor. And writing an actual text, I think that's dumb labor. So, I'm sending this audio letter instead. If you hope to hear something about a special topic, or that I'd have a high production value, I'm sorry, not this time. If you want to know what my qualifications are, I can tell you that I'm banned on both the No Man's Sky subreddit and the Donald Trump subreddit, due to, let's say, several reasons. Also, this could be considered being art, so Aki won't be the only one suffering under my artistic products any longer. I also want to answer to the question of the week in person, which was, what are your thoughts on the Nintendo Switch announcement? And to be honest, there's not much to say about it. Although it's a console with a potentially new design and some innovation, well, it's still a console, and I'm not very motivated to buy the Switch when I have a PC, because I already know that it's gonna be in a corner of my room after a couple of days, just because KSP is just better, you know. Also, I'm not really sure if their concept will work, as the same game will have to work under different conditions depending on whether it's connected to the main console or only used as a handheld. Now, there's only one thing left to say, and I want to begin this with a quote from Rage on Twitter. Groove, I'm so gonna making you my hauling bitch next time your name comes up. Then, in the last episode, he was complaining about his recording settings. And what can I say? It was a great feeling to have the revenge. Okay, so let's wrap this up. In case you want to find me on the internet, you can do so on Twitter at _the_groove and occasionally in several KSP Twitch chats. So, that's it from me. Dingo!
All right, thank you, Groove, for your inaugural audio letter. I think that everyone has gotten to know you well, and I promise that we won't make you do any dumb labor.
I can't promise that.
Well, I promise not to make you do any dumb labor.
I may or may not make you my hauling bitch in the future in RimWorld, which a lot of what he mentioned is RimWorld references to my RimWorld series, where I'm naming people after, community members. And Groove was someone that just couldn't haul stuff. And you wish to see RimWorld, it's on Gaming with Caffeine Rage.
Right. Ding.
And he did mention talking about, the question of the week, and maybe we should have put Groove in with that, but
Yeah.
The big thing is that the dock is really just a power brick, and it may be just, turning off any power savings on it. So that's the big thing there.
Yeah. We'll just have to wait and see whenever the specs come out next year.
And also, I'm going to have to keep my eye on Groove and make him my hauling bitch.
Thanks for coming and stopping by, Groove, and playing Spin Tires with us the other night. You're more than welcome to stop by anytime in TeamSpeak and see if anyone's there. And I'm seriously considering opening up Wednesday night to be just like another... I get to choose the game, but everyone can come hang out. Because like this past Wednesday, we had Kyle and Mel in there, I believe. Mm-hmm. And normally we would like sequester ourselves to the streaming channel, and we didn't.
Yeah, and
we had fun.
Yeah, and commenting about how we were old men.
Yeah. Was Wednesday night the night that Katie came, or was that Friday night and talked to us?
Katie talked to us a bit on Wednesday as well, I think.
Okay.
I think it was Wednesday. I don't know. I'm old.
It was Wednesday or Friday, either one. But regardless, I think that we're just going to... that's what I want to do with it, is just open it up so that people can come hang out and chat with us more. I've also...
maybe we should talk to your uncle about giving out the server info a bit more.
Yeah. I've also considered creating a Discord channel. Discord seems to be the up-and-coming new chat service.
It's the hip thing to do.
So it might be a nice place to go have a chat room for everyone so they can hang out and do text chat. And you can do voice chat on Discord. I haven't used voice chat on Discord, but I've seriously considered doing that just to have a place to hang out where we can all chat more frequently and help grow our little tiny community. I mean, we're in triple digit subscribers. I went and checked all that stuff this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're in the triple digits for subs across all of our stuff. And the Steam group has grown by a few members.
Yeah, I wonder how many we picked up from trapping Aki. Having Aki stop by.
Probably a few. I didn't actually look at the trends. I just went and looked at the overall to see where we were at. Because I've been putting together hosting services. And probably by next Game Club, I will have an official announcement for everybody.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I haven't even told Rage about this because I've been doing some testing. And, well, let's just say that I came up with some more money to actually pay for a service. I mean, you guys...
Oh, really?
Yeah, you guys, you've been very generous donating to us on Patreon, and we really appreciate it. But I wound up selling some things on eBay and getting an eBay credit card so that I can use a credit card because most places don't like to accept just PayPal. And
can't imagine why.
There's one in particular that has a fairly affordable plan with unlimited uploads. And I'm doing some testing in it this week to make sure that
So we're going to be abusing that and make them reconsider that.
We're going to make them be our, what did you call Groove? Our loading bitch?
Hauling
our
bitch.
Hauling
So
bitch.
they're going to be our upload
They're going to be our uploading bitch. But I'm doing some testing this week on it. I'm not going to name any names yet because nothing is official, but I think by next Game Club I'll have this worked out.
And the only problem with this is that cheeky little monkeys may be upset.
They'll get over it. So yeah, thanks, Groove, for your audio letter that led us to kind of wind down this path. Come play more games with us. We like you. You're fun.
Wait, we do?
I do.
Groove's fine.
Super fine. All right,
So,
next.
now we have an audio novel from Ghost Shark.
Here's Ghost Shark. Enjoy.
Hey guys, what's going on? Just thought I'd take a few minutes here on campus to punch out a quick voicemail or audio letter or whatever you want to call it. It's too early. I haven't had a full cup of coffee yet, so give me a break. Anyway, just wanted to weigh in on something you guys were talking about a couple weeks ago on the video game industry and some of its predatory practices and stuff like that. I think we ought to put the blame where it's due and not solely on the developers. I think a lot of what is going on could be attributed to the suits, the marketing and advertising departments, stuff like that set these timelines and goals that they may or may not be dealing with the developers, not know what's going on behind the scenes and just say, oh, they can get it done. I got a feeling that's kind of what's going on with why things are coming out buggy and why crunch time is such a huge deal, because as problems mount, the amount of time it takes or that you have to fix them is less and less, and that's where you get your 80 plus hour work weeks and just trying to be able to manage to get something playable out in time for release and whatever, patch it later. So I think that's, while there's some devs that probably deserve the ire of being scummy or just not very good at PR work, I think a lot of what can be attributed to the problems that we have now can go more towards the guys who don't have their fingers in the action. I don't know. I'm kind of with you guys on. I actually want to see a revolution in terms of the indies becoming more popular or as popular as AAA titles. Just because I feel it would kind of level the playing field. If the indies are so popular, the AAA guys would have to do something to compete. They might drop their prices down, or actually stop trying to have the release every year. If they can, like Call of Duty's, Assassin's Creed, things like that, and actually put some time and effort into putting out a good product. Look at the Skyrims, or not. Look at the Skyrims. Look at the Elder Scrolls. Those are, when they come out, there's some bugs and there's some pretty weird things about them, but by and large, they are an amazingly well put together package. Slight coding issues aside and stuff once in a while, but storyline is, the stories are always usually pretty good. Sorry, I'm trying to just walk and talk here, and apparently I can't do it that well. I don't know. I could wax poetic about the Elder Scrolls or even the Fallout series. I guess I'm kind of a closet Bethesda fan, but whatever. But I mean, they're very well put together compared to, say, anything that Molyneux makes. So, speaking of Molyneux, that's another, him and Sean Murray, a couple other guys that I think definitely don't do the gaming industry a lot of good. These people who overpromise and underdeliver so much, they really, well, like I said, they don't help the industry. It just kind of turns a sour opinion towards developers in general. Let's see. I'm trying to go through my notes while I walk, and it's not working so well. And I'm probably going a little too far into the into things here, but whatever. I guess I'll just kind of end it with mentioning something about legislation. Jared was talking about legislation of the gaming industry, and while I think that might be a pretty good idea, the problem that I see with it is first of all, I think it's almost impossible to do. And the big reason is not every game is made in the United States. So if we push for legislation here, there's going to be plenty of countries around the world that will not have the same push, or they won't have the same set of rules and everything. And a lot of companies would probably just pack up and move towards those places. But you also have some of the more established, I don't know if I'd call some of them indies anymore, but AA games, maybe not full AAA title companies, like Bohemia, CD Projekt Red. They're not as big as EA or Bethesda, but there's some wind. Crap, I have to walk. Alright, well, I'm just going to stand here at the edge of the parking lot because I can't walk into the wind. I've cornered myself. But yeah, some of these guys, some of these smaller people, they're not in the United States. And possibly one of the bigger ones as far as people that would say F you to any kind of legislation, Gaijin. Can you see them actually submitting to any kind of legislation limiting them, or in their developers, or basically telling them how to run their business? I couldn't. Also, in the United States, in order to do anything in Washington, you have to have money to gain influence in terms of political awareness and stuff like that. And AAA has the money to hire lobbyists to put the politicians on their side. We don't, because we give our money to the AAA game companies. More wind. So, also, it would require a fairly in-depth understanding on how the political system works here in the United States, and that is something that I feel that, as a whole, gamers lack. So, I don't know. It's a good idea in theory, but I don't think that it's going to happen. I agree that something has to be done, and I think it's going to be something more along the lines of more of an underground movement where, I don't know, that's kind of an odd way of putting it, but something that, I don't know. I'm not thinking clearly right now. Not enough coffee, like you said. But something will change eventually. But I guess that's going to be about it for now, because I'm just rambling. So I will talk to you guys later.
All right. Thank you very much, Ghost Shark, for your audio novel for us to discuss. Rage was very helpful and handy in taking notes and breaking it down in sections, so that I didn't have to do anything except listen to it.
And then you promptly forgot everything that was involved with it.
Nah, I didn't forget everything, just a lot of it.
Just that you have to edit.
Yeah. So what are our...
Well, he brought up the game industry and its predatory practices, which we kind of just talked about. So we'll just go ahead and really skip that. And then he got really into talking about the AA and single A developers, the indies, putting more pressure on these suits, which he thinks is the cause of the all the shitty conditions. Which I won't argue that. I think suits do have a huge problem with how things have kind of turned out with the games industry. Yeah. And I don't think that they're the sole problem. It's just, it's just things have gotten so big. Yeah. That something has to give. And he was talking about how maybe if indies and AA companies, something like CD Projekt Red, could put more pressure on the AAA companies, they would have to react. But I think if they would react, he was hoping that they would drop their prices or even push back yearly releases to, the Assassin's Creed idea where they're not doing an Assassin's Creed this year, for the first year in how long?
Many years. I will say that I think that CD Projekt Red is a AAA developer at this point. I think that they've crossed the threshold.
They're the company behind Green Man Gaming, aren't they?
GOG, Good Old Games.
Oh, so GOG. I knew it was one of them, but I picked one and I picked wrong.
Yeah.
I chose poorly.
I mean, the mistakes were made. I mean, The Witcher 3 is definitely a AAA game. I think The Witcher 2 was also a AAA game.
Witcher 1 is definitely AA.
Yeah, Witcher 1 is definitely AA. But I mean, with GOG, CD Projekt is kind of taking the Valve route. We'll see if they get out of game development and focus more on game sales,
and hats.
and hats. But CD Projekt is definitely a AAA developer at this point. Which there's nothing wrong with that. They are a good developer who has been honest and open for years. I mean, that doesn't mean that they can't change, that they can't fall prey to the money and all that jazz, but for now, they are a good company that's putting pressure.
I have a bit of a cough.
That's fine.
And you completely ignored what I just said.
I didn't even hear what you said because I was talking.
Bethesda.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they could fall from graces for sure, but for now, they're putting pressure on the bigger, worse developers.
But I think if indies were to put enough pressure that AAA companies would react, I don't think they would lower the prices or push back yearly releases. I think they would just buy the indie companies. I mean, EA has done this.
Yeah, EA's been doing this for years.
So, I think it's kind of a pipe dream to think that if indies were to put enough pressure on AAA companies that they would, become good guys again, because I don't think it would happen. And I do agree with you with the legislation. It's just not going to happen as well, especially because so much of the industry is still outside the United States. And, you can't legislate worldwide. Well, not yet. Not until we take over, at least, right?
We're going to make America great again. And then we're going to take over the whole gosh darn world.
Oh.
With our hats. No, I don't know. I think I disagree with you on this point, Ghost. I think that we need, if we can put... The United States is one of the largest video game markets in the world. It's not the only one, obviously, and other markets are growing, but the United States is still one of the largest game markets in the world right now. And if we do manage to pass some legislation more closely in suit with other markets like the European market, the Australian market, that we will be able to enact some change. If we wait too much longer, maybe another decade, as gaming continues to become a more globalized industry, then I don't think that we will be able to do it. But I think now we can.
Yeah, and he was talking about how games companies will just up and leave if the U.S. starts cracking down on things. I don't think AAA companies would up and leave. They're too ingrained and they get too many tax benefits and everything from their local governments to really up and leave. I think, if anything, it'll scare off indie companies. I think that's where things will really come down. Ironically, because you're talking about indie companies being helped, I think legislation cracking down on things with the lawyers, especially because the government is always at least 10 years behind on everything.
Yeah.
They're barely in the new millennium at this point.
Yeah.
Law-wise. So them cracking down, I think, would just hurt the indie companies even more than it would try to straighten out things.
Yeah.
I know it's ironic, but...
That's a very fair point, I mean, we are in uncharted waters. So, I don't have the answer. I think that legislation would be a good thing, would like I said, I kind of disagree with your
has to be done.
Here.
It has to be done very carefully, and I do not trust the people in power right now to handle the games industry even close to how it should be. They look at it and say, "Oh, it's a game," and either scoff at it or just hammer down things. And he also brings up a good point that Who has the money to really hire the lobbyists to try to get politicians on their side? It's the AAA companies.
Yeah, that's all very true. Very, very true. Well, we can only hope, without the expectation of change, that lobbying is something that starts getting phased out of American politics.
Oh, it's nice that you're delusional.
I said only hope without expectation of change. I'm not delusional. I'm just young and optimistic.
And you should get off my fucking lawn.
I can't wait till my generation is in control of politics. That'll be fun. A whole bunch of millennial SJWs running the show. Can't wait. Oh.
Well, remember, I live near a college, so I don't have it that bad since it's a technical college, but luckily there's a bridge near me to jump off of.
Yeah, well, I'm not your stereotypical millennial either, so I kind of get a pass. But,
for now.
Yeah. I hate plaid. I just hate plaid.
Oh, I'm sorry, but that's just, seems out of nowhere.
Oh, well, plaid is a big thing.
Now, what's your feeling on flannel itself?
I hate flannel, too. It's too hot and itchy. Maybe if I was thin, maybe that's why millennials like flannel so much. Because all millennials that you see, like, stereotyped are, like, ultra-thin people. But I'm really fat. So flannel just makes me extra hot. Maybe if I was thin...
And look like a lumberjack.
And I'm okay.
I'm not sure about that one.
I sleep all night. I work all day. All right.
Well, one other thing he brought up is Peter Molyneux and Sean Murray not doing really the industry good, overpromising and underdelivering, and leaving a sour note on their projects. I agree.
Yes. Hashtag agreeathon. Haven't had one of those in a while.
Hang on. I need to check something. No Man's Sky player count. Because this is going to be fun. I mean, is this going to have less players than Evolve now? And it does. And Evolve is actually ceased development. That's actually on our docket, but we didn't highlight it. Peak 24 hours down to 644.
Dang.
Oh, that is such a drop from 212,000 to 664.
Not 1,000. It's just 664.
Yeah. Well, I said drop.
Yeah. Fair play.
With 370 playing right now. And I'm betting all 370 of those are high as fuck.
All of them, yes. If only there were 420 of them.
Well, at some point there is because, 420 is between 300 and 600.
That's fair play. Okay.
So, I believe it's time for Kyle's letter.
Right. Now, normally, you and I would take turns reading since it's on audio letter. My throat has gotten sore at this point. So how about we do this? How about tomorrow I record myself reading this when my throat's not sore? And I will edit that in, and then we can just go talk about it.
Hey, I don't have to stumble over this? Excellent.
Yep, there you go. So, editing magic will happen, and then we'll talk about it in a moment.
Greetings, J. Arthur and Caffeine Rage. This is Kyle coming at you about legal shit. Again. So how this breaks down is as follows. Valve is being charged with both violating interstate gambling law and underage gambling law. However, this will be like trying to nail Jell-O to a tree for the state of Washington. See, the major issue here is that people have set up sites that will allow for basically a lottery system that is hypothetically weighted by a bot to select a winner from a pool of participants that bought into the game. In reality, the site owners usually won a disproportionate amount of the time. This is because they were pulling the strings on the odds and stacking the deck in their favor to win. In most of these systems, there was a winner-take-all policy, so everyone who lost was out the value of the skins, guns, and other items that they put in. Now, that would absolutely be no issue if these items did also not have a cash value that could be redeemed in a virtual marketplace. This, in Washington's view, is why Valve is on the hook for the gambling charges. This is one of those times that the law is yet to catch up with the digital age. In analog terms, this would be like suing the U.S. Treasury Department for drug dealing on the virtue that money can be used to buy drugs. Obviously, this is absurd. However, I would argue, and I would hazard that the Valve lawyers are going to bring this up, that these in-ecosystem items are a form of currency. If they can argue that, Valve is basically off the hook for gambling charges and most future crimes that could use items as a means of payment. The obvious question this raises is, are the items currency? I would say that there's a very good case that these items can be counted as currency due to the fact that it is a representative value. It's portable, kind of, can be exchanged for goods and services on Steam, and there is a limiter on the supply. That last point is where this gets a bit dicey. See, as a digital good, there's no real supply that can be diminished and therefore ensure a true scarcity. But given the fact that not all of the items are created equal, and some are far more rare than others, the principle of scarcity could be argued to apply through statistical math and odds. Okay, so let's say that the Valve lawyers can't make the argument stick. What would be the next most logical course of action? Well, for the sake of this letter, I'll ignore the most obvious argument until the end, but I would say that the intent of these items is not gambling. Intent is probably the hardest thing to prove or disprove in law. For example, if I committed a crime, the prosecution would try to paint the crime as a calculated and planned event on my part. The defense would argue that it was not planned, but was an accident. This, by the way, is what juries usually end up deciding. So Valve would have to point out the intended use of these items, the way that the items were marketed to users, and the agreement that users had to sign in order to use the product. Now this is where it gets a bit fuzzy from what I read. At the time of writing, Valve does not outright declare it to be illegal to gamble using these items, but at the same time, they don't endorse it either. So let's assume that the Valve lawyers don't want to roll the dice with the jury. What is the golden bullet? What argument could they use to prove beyond a shadow of doubt Valve's innocence on this matter? Well, the fact that they don't own the sites responsible for the gambling operation. See, at the end of the day, it is a case involving illegal gambling, and Valve has not opened any casino, betting site, or lottery for these items. Is Valve profiting from this situation? Decidedly yes, but they are not the people breaking the law. The people managing the sites are. And by the way, holy shit, are gambling laws scary in this country. The owners of these sites, if they are found in real life, can be on the hook for violating state gambling regulatory licensing laws, interstate gambling laws, underage gambling laws, fraud, and possibly international gambling law, because, you know, the internet's everywhere. Not to mention each U.S. state that they had a player in can press more charges. All this just to say Valve has not been handling the communication between themselves and Washington well. But if and when this goes to court, they're going to be in the clear. The best case scenario of all of this would be that this does go to court and the state of Washington gets pwned, to use gamer parlance. This would be the legal catalyst that would likely cause state and federal lawmakers to start moving on making laws for the digital age. This could be good or it could be bad. The important thing is to get involved. If we gamers remain silent in the period following a landmark case like this, we're letting the crusty old fucks in Washington, D.C., Lansing, Nashville, and Charleston to dictate the future of how we interact with digital media for decades to come. Anywho, it is getting close to the time of recording, and I ought to fire this thing off. This has been Kyle, signing off.
I love how he comments on each of our state capitals. At least I'm pretty sure he does for Nashville.
Yeah, Nashville is my state capital.
Oh, I'm pretty sure people here don't even know of what steam is outside of, devil magic when you heat up water.
Double. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Welcome back to the more sound of my voice. What for you has only been a couple minutes of reading, for us has been 10 minutes of bathroom breaks. And
replenishing water.
And getting cough drops, or throat lozenges, as it were. So, Rage, you were the one who was...
Yeah, this was my homework for Kyle, just because I wanted to see, really where things came down, and it's... a complete clusterfuck is kind of really suspected.
Right.
And it comes down really to intent. And I think Valve is going to have trouble saying that they didn't want this to be monetary, just because you can put these on the marketplace and get Steam credit.
Right.
That's the thing. It's you could trade these, you could sell them. It's just one of those things that, really where does it come down legally? And that's the tough part.
Yeah.
And also, how do you define gambling if you always get something? I mean, granted, it may not be worth half a damn or worth the ones and zeros it's printed on, but still.
Yeah, I mean, that's the
You're
thing
still
that...
getting something.
Yeah, that's the thing that people have tried to use to get around gambling laws for a long time. Like, oh, you're not actually gambling for money, you're just buying a token or a thing, but then the thing that you have carries another value which could be traded in somewhere else, which still makes it definable as gambling, but... You know, things like that have been done to skirt those laws for
it's
decades.
how pachinko parlors in Japan gets around anti-gambling laws, because you're given a candy bar and you go to the store around the corner and you could trade that candy bar for, however much money.
Yeah. So,
It's going to be an interesting thing, particularly if this goes badly for Valve. Well, for one, it's going to cause a lot of trouble on the Steam market and CSGO just in general, because that's where all this has been really focused. Because, CSGO is such a... It seems like everything I hear about CSGO is something negative. The cheaters on the ladder, the gambling scandals, the YouTubers that have set up gambling sites. Mm-hmm. It's just such a mess. But if Valve were to take this to court and lose, can you imagine what this is going to do to free-to-play games on mobile?
Yeah, that would be...
Because the crate system is very common there.
Yeah, even in my Pirate Power game, which I love, that is their system for turning money into gear. It's treasure chests, but, same concept, different set of clothes. So
I think this is going to be a big thing in the future. It doesn't seem like a lot now just because it's really the beginning of things, and legal battles can take years and years and years to come to fruition. But this could be a landmark case for free-to-play games just in general. Granted, I know CSGO is not a free-to-play game, and I'm pretty sure Valve never wants to make it free-to-play, even though they keep putting in elements of free-to-play games, especially with the paid sprays. I could get on a rant just how Valve is treated. Really, TF2 and CSGO. Granted, I'm not a CSGO player, and I was a TF2 player. But just the whole thing that's been going down there. And I really think that this is going to change things in the future. Granted, I'm not sure which side it's going to go on, if it's going to be Valve's or the state governments. But it's going to be interesting, and that's really why I wanted it here. It's just to see, the start of things.
Right. We will see where it goes and what happens. I mean, this is
you
another...
sound convinced.
Well, I'm just,
You're trying to save your voice. That's what you're doing.
Well, yeah, but it's not that I'm not interested. It's just, this is the very beginning of a thing that is not interesting to me at this stage. Like, this is an important thing that's going to happen. This is going to be an important court case. A precedent-setting case. But at this point when nothing is really happening, it's not interesting to me.
Yeah, but you're interested in the Nintendo Switch and literally nothing's happening.
That is very true. And I'm just going to switch you off. But all right, folks, and with that, since there's no Steam Weekly Deals discussion this week, it's time for us to move on to the part of the podcast where I go first, which is where I tell you...
Or you're just going to skip all the tweets.
Oh, I forgot about the tweets. You're right. Damn it. I'll edit that out, Johnny, so I'll look better. No, I won't.
Well, since we're going back in time now to the tweets, Groove, unrelated to the NDA I didn't sign and podcast I didn't listen to, are you interested in the gaming peripheral simulating 25G reentry? I think that would be a good way to break something for me.
That's interesting. Yeah.
What is this peripheral? A cannon?
Getting punched in the chest by a boxer.
A centrifuge. Unfortunately, I don't have the room for a centrifuge.
Well, I mean, if I clear out my living room, I might be able to fit one in here. It'd have to be kind of small, but...
yeah, it would be king size.
I don't want to kill my child. I love him.
No, you just put it on at a low speed and he slowly goes around. It'll entertain him.
He would love that. He would sleep.
Put him in the centrifuge at night with the Nintendo Switch in there. He'll never leave.
Yeah.
And well, we did get the news article that Kyle sent in from M251 Speed, which gave Kyle his homework. Chemist. Looks like that this chemist guy that you had on episode 28 correctly predicted everything about the Nintendo NX. You should invite him on more often.
Well, you're going to receive an invite real soon, Chemist.
Oh, my. Kyle, I'm going to level to you. I don't recall calling JMA 4707 ding on Friday. At least I was welcoming to Acne and Nisus Gaming.
Yeah.
And Aki, I just got to that part of the podcast. Dingo.
Dingo.
Poor Aki. He had no idea that was coming. I just kind of just spur of the moment. You know, it'd be funny to send everybody to Aki as well.
Yeah.
And it seems like a lot of people did. It just completely confused Aki until he listened to the podcast.
I know I did.
Well, you were the first one. You did it not more than 30 seconds after I came up with the idea.
Yeah, I did it very, very early.
And he was asking me, what the hell is going on? Maybe not in those exact words, but you know, the intent was there. And then let's see. Kyle built the Dan Akadesis minimum security sheet pen, which may or may not be dingo proof. And then he also floats the idea of, would anybody be interested in a VGL Minecraft server? He's willing to run one. Just want to see how many went in.
I'm in. I posted.
I would have to actually figure out my Minecraft stuff.
Yeah.
It's been quite a while for Minecraft for me. So, and plus, Minecraft, it really depends on the mods you're running, to be perfectly honest.
Well, I tweeted back while we were recording that Mojang fixed my account so that I can actually play now. So, I'm in.
And that's really all I got for the tweets. So now you can go to the part where you go first.
All right. Well, this is the part of the podcast where I go first and tell you about all the stuff that's going on my channel over the weekend, where you can
And
find
you
me on the
definitely
internet.
don't skip ahead. You definitely don't skip ahead to it.
Never do that. Never even consider it. Not a million years. I never forget the tweets. That's never once happened before on our show, ever.
It happens all the time.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. Oh. So, what's going on my channel? I ran out of... Well, I haven't ran out of videos, but my scheduled videos stopped being scheduled tomorrow, which means that I really need to go schedule the rest of my videos.
May not be a bad idea.
There's going to be more Spin Tire stuff. I've got enough Spin Tire stuff to get me through the next month, as long as I post them weekly only. So, there's going to be Spin Tires. Let's see, what else is there? I've went through the entire archive, which means that I'm going to be started putting up our collab stuff. So that means that Portal 2 is going to be coming up soon, unless you want to coordinate, in which case I'll hold off on that.
Well, Portal 2 for me is tomorrow.
Okay, well, then I will start posting Portal 2 as well, and it won't be exactly synced, but roughly close enough.
Yeah, well, that's about par for the course.
Yep. The last couple of streams are going to be going up soon, which were just casinos and us hanging out, playing... Well, we were playing poker and bingo, mostly bingo, blackjack.
And being old men.
And my wife came and talked, so if you liked listening to her talk with me about video games, you can come listen to her make fun of us for being old men.
We should get Katie a podcast.
Yeah.
She'd be more popular than us.
Probably. She's going to be doing some more recordings. We're going to be doing some more stuff for the next game club. We're going to be playing some Skyrim together. We're going to talk about doing some other stuff because she actually enjoyed doing it. So that means I'm going to have to spend a shitload of money on proper audio equipment.
Well, I know you enjoy doing it. I mean, you have a kid.
Wink. Wink. Wink.
Are you okay over there? I think I broke you.
There may have been sex around the time of recording tonight.
Oh my!
There definitely was sex. Wink.
Goodbye, child-friendly rating. As if my little angry rant earlier didn't turn it off already.
I'm between two games to review right now, which means I'll probably be reviewing both of them, and one of them will show up this week, and the other one will be next week. One of the games I am going to review is Train Fever, and the other game that I want to review after having played it for Game Club is Alan Wake. So I don't know which one I want to do for this week and which one I want to do for next week, but one of those games will be the review for this week. And then I have my Sunrider series, which gets regular uploads on Saturdays, except for this previous Saturday because of a problem I had with the video and I had to pull it down and redo it. So that will be going up this Saturday, and we will be continuing forward from that, which is episode 3. And as for that, nothing else coming up that I can think of on my channel. If you want to go to my channel to watch that stuff, just search for Gaming Psychologist on YouTube. You'll find me. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where that I finally am done tweeting about politics because I went and voted early yesterday.
You're not done.
You're right, I'm not done. But I have been talking about it less since I voted because it's kind of like, well, I voted. There's nothing else I can really do except wait until the election results. But if you want to see me tweet about things like politics and video games and wanting to take a nap and food or whatever else random pops into my head, you can do so over at JMA4707. If you want to watch me stream games on Twitch, you can do so by going to twitch.tv/jarthur4707. Typically, I stream on Wednesday and Friday. And if you want to be my friend on Steam so that you can chat with me, watch me play games when I'm on Steam, but not streaming regularly, or join our Steam group, you can find me. My Steam username is jarthur4707. I accept all friend requests because I love all of you lovely people.
And if you wish to know exactly what episode you're coming from the podcast, the code word for this week is Wadazenskite. Oh, I butchered that.
What?
Wadazenskite. It is a German term meaning the feeling that you get when you're alone in the woods.
That's very themed to Game Club. I like that. Also to the fact that I'm a creeper.
Wadazenskite. There we go. I finally got it right. So I don't get lectured next week. Well, not nearly as much, I should say.
Good luck on that. What about you, Rage? Where can they find you on the internet, and what's going on for you this week?
Ethan Carter is going to start wrapping up naturally because I talked about it earlier. And back in the choosing, I have a few things that I'm considering for my next series. Probably something more action-oriented. I have my list down to about 15 games or so right now, just to try to figure out what I want to play. Ethan Carter will be wrapping up next Monday, if I recall my episode numbers correctly. So that means next Thursday I'll have a new game in that time slot, and I haven't exactly decided what. Beyond that, RimWorld is still going strong. I have a little over a week and a bit recorded already. I'm going to be recording some more of that probably tomorrow night. Colony's going strong, and we have some people from the previous colony showing up. Granted, not the exact same people, because they probably had terrible things happen to them when they were all carted off by those raiders, but I'm sure you enjoyed it, Jared.
I enjoy everything. Wink.
Except the clowns.
Except for the clowns. Wink.
And, of course, starting tomorrow is Portal 2 with Jared. Some craziness going on there. Which, some technical difficulties in the first episode and more just random problems in the third. Portal 2 has been very troublesome for us, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
But then again, they're also longer recordings, so we're going through the entire test tracks just in one go, at least for now. Some of the longer ones we may split up.
Yeah.
But the early ones we go through pretty quickly. And yes, we are dumbasses in them. I mean, it is Portal gameplay. You expect people to be stupid. It's just the level of stupid that you expect them to be. Right?
Yes. You killed me a couple of times in that first episode, if I remember correctly.
Hey, that was a trust exercise.
Yes.
You failed.
Yes, because I trusted you.
Actually, I just pressed the wrong button that one time.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Wink. And let's see. Of course, the podcast comes out on Fridays. And the Sunday Sampler. I think I might know what I'm doing this week. And I may try to do the double Sunday Sampler that I've been wanting to do just to catch back up for missing a week. And the game that I'm looking at, I think it's one that you'll enjoy.
Okay.
And I'm not going to say really anything more about it.
All right. Fair enough.
Because that is more fun just to tease you. And plus you'll hear about it next Tuesday anyway, even if you don't watch.
Oh, you're such a tease. Such a
Oh,
tease.
my. And you can find all of that on Gaming with Caffeine Rage on YouTube, or if you wish to see me just rant and rave. And I was talking a bit about Alan Wake on Twitter, and mostly talking about how I wish more games had dev commentary. You can find all of that over on Gaming with CR on Twitter. And that wraps us up with that, which means it's time to start closing things out. So one last plug for the Internet Archive before we leave them behind and forget about them.
Yeah, probably one more plug after this one.
Oh, my. Well, we want to thank the Internet Archive for just really unknowingly supporting us. And just being in general awesome. And if you wish to email us and comment on this madness that we've done, which we're up to 3 hours of us just sitting here randomly talking. So we're probably looking at a very long episode.
Yay.
You can send that email to vglpodcast@gmail.com. And as Kyle showed, you don't have to send audio letters. Usually we do read them out, but Jared's feeling artistic this week, I guess.
No, my throat just feels like it's on fire.
So that's why you're not talking that much. I should harness this opportunity.
I'll just cut you out in editing.
And you could also contact us on Twitter, VGL Podcast, where we also post the Game Club polls. The new poll will be starting tomorrow for us. It'll be in a few days in the past for you. So make your voices heard and vote. Remember, vote early and vote often.
You wouldn't happen to be referencing the United States political election, would you?
Perhaps. If you wish to be a lobbyist and throw us some money, you could support our Patreon. We are at patreon.com/VGL podcast. And we need that money for our hosting because it looks like we are eventually moving.
Yep. We're moving sooner rather than later at this point.
Hey, at least we have movement for once.
That is true. I'm not sitting in my chair.
Just spinning there going... Hitler.
Wink.
If you're listening to this on YouTube or got us through iTunes... we do have show notes. They are at videogamelogicpodcast.blogspot.com. And if you're, and that's also where you can find the RSS feed. And as I mentioned, we are on iTunes and we are also on Google Play and whatever random service Jared decides to put us on next. Our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod. And you can find his work at Incompetech.com. And
as his lovely music starts to roll across my probably raspy voice. Bye-bye now.
Well, doesn't it make it extra sexy if you're a little bit raspy?
Makes me
Just
sound
talking a little low.
Makes me sound like a smoker. Bye-bye.
See ya.
So, who's worse, Hitler or Donald Trump? And then the auto just fades.
Well, to be fair, Hitler is dead.
He had the good sense to just kill himself.
Yeah. See, here's the thing about Hitler. Hitler did kill Hitler.
That is very true. Hitler did a lot of bad things, but he made up for it by killing Hitler. Donald Trump has done a lot of bad things, but so far he hasn't killed himself.
Well, we could just wait and see after the election results come in.
Yeah. Oh.
We'll see how much you cut out of that.
No, I'm just going to leave it. This is after the music rolls. Got our post-credit outtake, and we're still recording. No editing required.
For once.
Yeah, but now I'm going to stop recording. Goodbye, children.